Welcome back to the Rodcast. We got a lot planned for you on the show today. Of course, we're looking ahead, previewing the top five matchup the Longhorns have this weekend coming up with the Georgia Bulldogs. It is a doozy. Big game coming up for the Longhorns, biggest game of the season. So we'll get into that and talk about that. We'll also hear from Steve Sarkisian. He had his Monday media availability yesterday. We'll get into some of his comments and hear from him when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Lots of other NFL news, notes, and nuggets to discuss. We'll talk about the game last night. Buffalo Bills coming out on top of Monday Night Football. We'll also get into some Cowboys news, notes, and nuggets. Hear from Jerry Jones, and we'll hear from Dak Prescott, and we'll talk about the bye week ahead for the Cowboys and what we expect to see. We should see some activity from the Cowboys. If we don't, I think that may tell us a whole lot about where the Cowboys are as an organization. We'll dive into some Texans discussion as well. We'll also get into some other college football topics, NFL news, notes, and nuggets from around the league. We also have all your usual favorites. We got Raj Rant. We got Who Said That off the record. What the facts, what the stats. We got the topic for the big fat poll of the day loaded on a Tuesday. Glad you could join us. But before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It is our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Excited for the week, getting into Oklahoma, going from Oklahoma to Georgia. I don't remember the last time that it feels like the Oklahoma game was kind of the afterthought at a presser on a Monday morning.
After you win, too.
After a big win, it was kind of like, okay, we're moving. It's Georgia time. So there was some questions about OU, but a lot more about Georgia. I don't know the last time that's happened where it's really seemed like, no, it's big. And I mean, when's the last time you played and you had a closer line than the Oklahoma game? I believe the Georgia line is the first single-digit line we've had this season.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's definitely right about that. We haven't had any true because the Michigan was a Michigan line.
It was double digits.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but yeah, no, we haven't had any close lines at all. They'll get closer, I think, as the SEC schedule goes on. If Texas A&M ends up being as good as some people anticipate them to be, at least with the schedule laid out. You got to go on the road to Arkansas. I'm not sure what that line's going to be on the road, but yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a huge game for Texas, obviously for Georgia, but for Texas, a statement, like a program statement type of game for them, because Georgia's been in games like this before, and Texas is just starting to play in these games again. All right, as a program, and should be a regular thing, whether you're talking about playoff games, or SEC title games, or even the big non-conference games now that are becoming a regular, more consistent thing here at Texas. They like planning those big non-cons with the blue bloods, so you're going to get these types of big games, which is a good thing. But for Texas, they should be top 10, top 5 matchups, because you should always be ranked in the top 10. And you're scheduling blue bloods, and your hope is that they also will be, obviously highly ranked programs and playing really well, so that you can keep kind of just stacking your resume as a program. And this is big for recruiting. Like, this is like the biggest recruiting weekend that Texas had in years, actually, because they don't play that many of these big games at home. I mean, you obviously, when you play the non-con, you play home and away. Then when you play one in season, I mean, what's the last time, like you said, we had one of these in season? First year in the SEC, usually after Oklahoma. I mean, that's your big game in obviously in the Big 12 play. That was always the big game, the biggest game of the year. Now it feels like there are other games that are on par, if not bigger. Of course, Texas, Georgia is than Oklahoma this year. So big recruiting weekend. I don't know if we've had a recruiting weekend at Texas this big in a really, really long time.
No, I mean, especially when you throw in the fact that you talked about this a million times, that Atlanta is such a fertile area that if you have any people coming in from Atlanta that are maybe kind of deciding between Georgia and Texas, if you can go show them that this is the better place and that this is somewhere that they're, the better team and the better program right now, there's a ton to be said about that. But yeah, it's going to be a huge weekend because in Big 12 play, even if you played against a top 5 team, it didn't carry the same gravitas as a dynasty.
And you didn't play. I mean, there was no top 5 teams in there except
No.
Oklahoma. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
That's the Big 12. And it's nothing against the league. It's a good league, but it didn't have enough respect for. I mean, 2008 was when you started playing some teams like that may not have been Oklahoma, but the Big 12 didn't have that much off. But this is the SEC, so you'll play some of those big dogs, no pun intended, with the Georgia Bulldogs during the season too, and even after Oklahoma. Especially in the future. Now next year the schedule just switches right back. They just flip it. But then after that, I mean, who knows? You could be getting your Bama's on your schedule. And obviously no Nick Saban, so Bama's doesn't have the clout it used to, but it's still Alabama. Even after Vandy beat it, still Alabama, and you'll be getting some of those bigger matchups.
Yeah,
and,
Tennessee's looking good. Ole Miss is looking good. Florida's looking good. I mean, there's a lot of teams that look really, really good right now in the SEC.
No doubt. And A&M coming to Texas. I know people don't like to get A&M props, but that's a big game when the Aggies come to Austin. That's going to be a big. That was back in my day. That was like one of our big games. I mean, it was Oklahoma, but we didn't play Oklahoma at home. Some of the big home games, because we didn't play like these, big time blue blood programs in the non-con. We'd play a Stanford or North Carolina State, but it was nothing like a Michigan or an Alabama or anything like that. So honestly, a lot of times our big home game was the Texas A&M game.
That's true.
That was like the biggest home game
Thanksgiving
of the year
Day
back in the day. Yeah, it was like it really was. Some people, unless we played a ranked opponent during the season that was really good, like a K-State or maybe Oklahoma State was ranked really high, but usually that was like your big game.
It was.
Yeah.
Let me introduce
times are changing.
Let me introduce you my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate the intro, brother, as always. We can talk about the game last night a little bit, but I'm with you. I'm buzzing. So I think we should already start doing little Georgia previews here and there. And all week long, we'll be devoting a lot of the show to previewing Georgia and making sure all you guys know exactly what the X factors are in this matchup and exactly, how we expect Texas to attack that Georgia defense, how we expect that Georgia defense to approach that Texas offense and how we expect that Texas defense right now, the best in the country, to handle their biggest challenge yet. I mean, they haven't really been challenged, and at least Georgia's offense offers some elite personnel in different areas of the offense. As a whole yet, they haven't really proven to be an elite, prolific offense, but you at least know they got guys that'll play on Sundays across from you, and they got high caliber personnel on the O-line, at wide receiver, of course, quarterback. Carson Beck may be, the best quarterback in the country, or at least he's in that conversation. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk Cowboys too coming up on the show. And of course, we got your usual favorites. So let's not waste too much time. Let's get right to it. Let's get educated first. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day. Then we'll come back, hit the game last night, talk about the Jets losing to the Bills, and then we'll get into previewing Georgia a little bit and hear from Kirby Smart. Actually, yesterday he spoke about the Longhorns and what a challenge it's going to be for his Bulldogs. So we'll hear from the Georgia Bulldogs head coach. But first, let's hit the Horn headlines with my man Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB playoffs, the Mets tied the NLCS against the Dodgers with a 7-3 win yesterday. The Mets put up 5 runs in the second inning, including a grand slam from Mark Vientos to take a commanding lead. In the ALCS, the Yankees took Game 1 5-2 over the Guardians, with the Yankees scoring 2 runs off wild pitches in the third inning. Game 2 is tonight with Tanner Bibbies pitching for Cleveland against Garrett Cole. And in the NFL, the Bills improved to 4-2 on the season with a 23-20 win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. The game was marred by penalties and poor kickings, with both teams committing 11 penalties and missing 2 kicks in the game. A 52-yard Hail Mary to Alan Lazard in the first half put the Jets back in the game. However, neither team could find the end zone in the second half. And that is your Horn headlines.
Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yet ugly win for the Bills, but doesn't matter as long as they found a way to win. Aaron Rodgers actually did look pretty good. He was 23 or 35, I think almost 300 yards. Did have 200-yard receivers. Most of Alan Lazard's, like you said, most of his yardage came on that Hail Mary. But Breece Hall finally had his breakout game. He had over 100 yards rushing. It looks like that was a game that the Jets should have won. Should have found a way to win because the Bills did not play good football. How about this? Aaron Rodgers and the Jets had 4 opportunities to lead, essentially a go-ahead drive trailing by less than 7 with under 4 minutes to go in the last 3 weeks, basically. So in the last 3 weeks, they've had a chance to have a game-winning drive. A game within one score, 4 minutes or less remaining, and they are over 4 on those opportunities now. Turnover on downs, missed field goal, 2 interceptions. That's their result now when they've been in a situation for a game-winning drive, and then obviously the result is that they come up short. Is that on Aaron Rodgers? It's not totally on Aaron Rodgers, but that's what they got him for.
Well, I know
they got him for that their defense would keep them close, keep them in games, which their defense had been keeping them in games. And then when you got a chance in the fourth quarter to go win a game, that Aaron Rodgers would work some of his magic and that he would show the clutch gene. And I'm not saying it's Aaron Rodgers' fault, but that's really what they got him for.
It is, but I mean, he put
really
him in field goal range twice.
No, he played great. As I said, he had a good game. I'm going back to look. This is 4 opportunities. This is not just tonight. Last night. I'm just saying over the season, that's what they got him for. They got him because I need you to be a game winner.
Yeah.
I need you to, in game-winning drive situations, go-ahead situations where you can have a fourth quarter comeback or a game-winning drive, and that's the best the Jets can ask for. They're not necessarily a great team. The best they can ask for is, we ended in the fourth quarter, we got a shot? Yeah. All right, that's why we got Aaron Rodgers. Let's go. Aaron, go to work. And that's not really working out for them. Maybe it will now they have a new leadership and stuff like that. But my point is they've had you go look at it, like I said, they've had 4 chances to lead game-winning drives, trailing by at least 1 score, and with under 4 minutes to go in the last 3 weeks, and they're 0 for 4 in those opportunities.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers got to take some ownership of that.
He does.
That's on him.
I think they did. The offense looked a little bit better with new play caller.
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah.
So I think that helps. Is maybe you get a little bit more out of that team. That way, it felt like the Jets should have won this game. They did miss 2 field goals in the second half that would have given them the lead. So they were never able to push away from the Bills. So they should have had that. At the end of the game, it was penalties and even on that penalty, where they're like, well, he threw the pick, but it was 3rd and 16. So the next play is 4th and 16. If that's not a catch, he throws it to a wide open guy who falls over. So like there's extenuating circumstances that I can't put on him. And I believe me, I'm not the last guy who wants to defend Aaron Rodgers, but I'm with you. I think that's what they wanted. But if your team is built on this quarterback will bail us out, unless you have Patrick Mahomes, you're probably barking like I don't think there's even 5. I don't think there's 3 quarterbacks in the league who can do it consistently anymore. You have to have receivers. You have to have chemistry built up with guys. You have to be able to have some other people going right now. And, it just doesn't feel like there's any chemistry, which somewhat goes on to him. It goes on to back onto Rodgers that he just doesn't seem to have chemistry with enough of these wide receivers. But, that holding penalty that you get on second down where you go and, you get a pass for 13 yards and it gets called back for a holding. And now it's 2nd and 16. Those are drive killers, and it just kept happening to the Jets all game. And it's both teams looked like they had problems within the team of coaching and within the team of discipline and all of that. And you kind of get it from the Jets because it is you fired your coach, in a game where you still could have been leading the division the next week. If they win that game, they're leading the division, but they let go of their coach. So you get there's probably going to be a little bit of miscommunication with a new play caller on offense, with a different head coach. There may be some. It looked like early in that game they maybe had to go back to that defense and remind them that they should play a little bit harder. It felt like the Jets were not necessarily headed in the game early in it defensively. But overall, I don't necessarily put this one on Aaron Rodgers as much as it just felt like the Jets being the Jets overall. But I guess if you're saying we signed Aaron Rodgers to be a guy to elevate our game and elevate all of our players, he's not going to do that. Now, I think that was a pretty grand wish if that was your plan anyway.
Yeah, no, I get that. That was definitely the plan. I mean, like I said, and it's not right now. It's not leading to wins and success, but that was definitely the plan. But still, they should have won that game last night. I think ultimately the Jets can improve after deciding to part ways with Robert Saleh. So I'm not hating on Jeff Ulbrich, and I like the way the offense look. You showcased more talent. Brees Hall had his breakout game. You had 200-yard receivers. That is improvement, but they got to work. They got to learn now in clutch time, and that's like I said. I think they were hoping Aaron Rodgers would take care of that for them. That he would teach this young team how to win in winning time and in clutch time, and that would put them over the top. That's not happening just yet, but maybe now with the regime change, you'll see them take that next step. But they've been close. Like I said, they've been closer than people think. They've just been right there, and ultimately, the Jets. They become the Jets. They are who we thought they were. In those moments, they become who we thought they were. And I think they were hoping that there would be a transformation and that Aaron Rodgers, and maybe that's still what they're doing right now. Maybe that was whole part of, hey, we got to move on from Robert Saleh, and this team can be more. He's taking us as far as he can, and we now need somebody else to take over. We'll see. But I like the term, or at least the with the description of the Jets. The calls are coming from inside the house.
Yes.
It's that's the big issue with the Jets. Like, it's not actually, it's more the front office and then probably ownership more than anything. Cowboys know about those types of issues, and I don't know if one man coming in is going to solve that, no matter who they are, unless it's Tom freaking Brady.
But even that, I mean, like, doesn't Aaron Rodgers? I mean, and maybe it's just they cut to him and they know how to cut to him on TV. Every time they show him, he looks like he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, he used to always have that look on his face. Even with the Packers, he had that look, and maybe sometimes he didn't want to be there.
He just
has a resting. He just has a resting a-hole face. He
does.
Like it's like right? It's like the resting itch face. Like, he has that face. Like, he does look annoyed and looks like, I don't know. Like I said, he looks like he is always looking like he knows more than everybody else, or thinks he knows more than everybody else.
I think he always looks like, man, if you guys could only get on my level, we'd be great.
Yes.
And then they go, well, can you elevate us? And he goes, no. I need you to go get on my level on your own, and then we'll be great.
There's I agree with that. I don't, but I think he's always had that kind of look, though. That's not a Jets thing. I agree with the look thing, but I think he had that look before the Jets too. Because I can recognize it just by you describing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, I think Tom Brady smiled a lot more when he was on the Bucs.
Tom Brady's a lot more aware of how people perceive him.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers should be more aware of how people perceive him.
He is not. He is not at all. Yeah. You know that, based on comments and stuff that he said before. No, Aaron Rodgers is not aware at all of how people perceive him. And maybe that's just because he just doesn't care about that kind of stuff. But, so no, I'm with you on that. So it's, like I said, it could be partly Aaron Rodgers' fault. The team is getting better, but right now it doesn't like the Jets are going to be, I don't think they're a playoff team, but we shall see how things work out in that division. Definitely the Bills right now with a stranglehold on that division because Miami's not the team that we thought they would be because of the Tua injury. So they're out of it. And New England don't have a shot. New England's, they're going to be a bottom dweller. So it's a 2-team division, and the Jets are they really competing with the Bills in the division?
No.
That was a competitive game, but they're not competing with the Bills in that division.
No, I mean, you always could, because the Bills are also on that tenuous path of you're one hit away from your season being over because you're a one-man offense.
Yeah.
And I get James Cook. James Cook was out and he's been playing well, but I think James Cook's numbers go way down if you put another quarterback in there.
Ray Davis looked good. That's the running back that they had.
He was a beast for Kentucky last year. So
yeah, he actually looked pretty good, man. So that may be a plus for him too. But I'm with you on that. That's Josh Allen's a one-man show, but man, he is one hell of a show. He is worth the price of admission, that's for sure. All right, let's get to some Texas-Georgia discussion. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian on the other side when we go behind the Burners curtain. Let's hear from Kirby Smart. I got a couple of Kirby Smart cuts here. He has been very complimentary of the Longhorns, and why wouldn't he be? They're the number one team in the country. They haven't really shown a glaring flaw or weakness. Here is Kirby Smart. We got a couple of cuts here. You can play either one you want to, Patrick. This is Kirby Smart from yesterday talking about the Longhorns, their upcoming opponent.
Where they're balanced and they do a great job of putting you in conflict in terms of run, pass, play action, turn your back to the ball. I mean, they can take shots. They got really good wideouts to take shots with. I think they lost a couple backs maybe at preseason camp, and I thought like, okay, well, they're not going to have. Well, these two backs they got are really good, and I'm like, man, I'm watching them against Mississippi State, who I'd seen them against. Last week while we were watching Mississippi State, I was really impressed. And then against Oklahoma, they even got better. So there's not like there's these weaknesses. They're big, physical up front on defense and offense. They're built around the offensive and defensive lines. And that when you look at his record and you say, look at his record while he's been there, every year it's improved. Well, the trenches improved every year. And they're for real in the trenches. They've got really good players, and they're built like an SEC team. And it's hard to prepare for him because he knows what he's doing. Offensively, he's be really different in terms of what he makes you adjust to.
Smart, very complimentary of the Longhorns and Coach Steve Sarkisian. We got another cut here. Here is Kirby Smart talking about the Longhorns, and like I said, he's giving them a lot of props from what he's watched so far this year.
All right, guys, we're moving on to Texas for us. Obviously, a huge matchup. It's going to be a top 10 two teams in the country. A lot of respect for Sark. I've gotten to know Sark really well over the last couple of years. We take a trip every year together, and really enjoyed getting to know him and have a lot of respect for the job he does. I mean, the most complete team that we've seen or faced this year and probably in multiple years. When you look at what they're doing defensively, offensively, and special teams, they are clearly one of the best teams in the country with what they do. Got a great quarterback, great defense, great scheme. Should be a great matchup. And this is really what you come to Georgia to play in these moments. Once again on the road, going to a place that I've never been. I assume none of our players have ever been there either for a game. So it should be exciting, great TV, and looking for an opportunity for us to get better, because that's the most important thing is, can we show some kind of consistent improvement and play more consistent as a team. That's our goal. So that I'll open it up.
All right, there you go. That's Kirby Smart talking about Texas. Yeah, and he said that him and Sark take a trip. He always made it seem like they, like just him and Sark, go take a trip, like their families or something like that. I know that's not the case. They probably take a group trip of some kind, maybe a coaching clinic type thing. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but somebody should ask Sark about that. Hey, what's up with these trips you take with Kirby Smart? Where do y'all go every year together? And just some clarity. I bet it's a coaching thing, like a lot of coaches probably go, not just him and Sark hanging out, which would be cool. Honestly, now I'm hoping that it is just him and Sark, and we learn like they're basically like this odd couple that likes to go kick it and hang out every summer or something like that, when they get some free time. They don't have enough free time, honestly, to go on trips together, stuff like that. So I know it's a coaching.
Do you think
thing.
Lane's there too? Think Lane Kiffin's there too?
They might not want Lane there.
They don't want Lane there?
Lane's like the mouthpiece, and Lane won't shut up. They just always on the group text. They always say Lane's the one that's randomly texting stuff consistently on there that's got nothing to do with business or anything like that. It's just like jokes and stuff like that. That's kind of what Lane. I can't take Lane Kiffin seriously. I like Lane Kiffin as a coach, but I can't take him seriously because all the stories I hear about Lane Kiffin. And something tells me that Lane would be the instigator of the bunch. He's like the Woody Woodpecker of the bunch. So he's just gonna annoy and instigate people, and I can totally see that being Lane Kiffin. But getting back to Kirby Smart though, and I know he's got a lot of respect for Sark, and I've started to kind of dabble into some analysis and watching Georgia. Georgia's not getting better every week. That's strange. Like Georgia's good. Georgia's Georgia, of course. Something he said about Texas, though, that Texas is getting better every week. I do think Texas actually is improving week to week. Now, you can make the argument they haven't played to the standard last 2 weeks, but there's areas of growth that I've seen, right? Like last game against Oklahoma, you didn't play your best game all around, but the running game finally found its somewhat of its confidence. Finally was able to lean on the running game to go win you a game. Defensively, I mean, you're still just dominating opponents, period, defensively. But I'm seeing like areas of growth weekly for Texas. When you go watch Georgia, you don't necessarily see Georgia getting better week to week. I mean, guys, against Mississippi State last game, Georgia allowed 31 points to Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State maybe to be getting better, but they ain't supposed to be getting that much better. In 2 of the last 3 games, they've allowed a 300-yard passer in 2 of the last 3 games. Georgia has. They're just not as dominant when you watch them on film as they used to be. The suffocating defense, the very twitchy skill guys on offense, they're still Georgia. So I'm not trying to disrespect what the Kirby Smart has built. I mean, they are still one of the best teams, if not the top 5 team in the country. There's no question about that. But they're vulnerable. You can expose Georgia in a lot of ways. Like I said, even Mississippi State did. I mean, Mississippi State may be the worst team in the SEC. We've talked about that when Texas played them, and still people will remark that, yeah, they probably have the worst accumulation of talent in the SEC. It ain't Vandy. Vandy's letting you know right now, it ain't us. So you better look at somebody else. And right now, everybody's looking at Mississippi State as the worst team in the SEC. They put 31 on Georgia. 31.
Yeah, and we know
at Georgia.
And we
at
know
Georgia.
We
They
know
wasn't at home.
We know Kentucky held them to 13.
Yeah, offensively, they've been struggling, but now, but the defense is supposed to be, that's the hallmark of Kirby Smart. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Offensively, I've seen them. They're a little inconsistent. They can still score. They have personnel that will threaten you, but I'm with you. I don't necessarily
put up 30 in every other game. They put at least 30 in every other game. So their offense has been there for most of it, but they've had a game where they were slow on offense, and they've had a game where that one for Mississippi State putting up 31 that one's mind-blowing, but
they've been inconsistent on offense, and now they're starting to look a little inconsistent on defense. They have, in my opinion, they've been inconsistent offensively. And I think now you're starting to see some of those inconsistencies on the defensive side of things. That is, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to be cocky or anything going into this game, but that defense is, if Quinn is on his game, if Quinn has shaken off the rust, Texas is going to have a huge advantage. Their passing game versus the Georgia pass defense. Georgia's rush defense is, I think their rush defense is pretty stout. Their rush defense actually, I think, is improving week to week. I'm not sure their pass defense is. Mississippi State throwing for 300 yards. Y'all saw that Mississippi State offense. You watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that Mississippi State offense throwing for 300 yards? After watching it versus Texas, think about it. You're like, can you imagine throwing for 300 yards on you? Think about that. They threw for 300 yards on Georgia. That offense. Now with the weapons that Texas has, now with the third-year starting quarterback, now with the O-line Texas has, now with a Gunnar Helm playing like the best tight end in the country. No. That Mississippi State offense threw for 300 yards on Georgia. And it was mostly coverage bust by Georgia. It was bad eye discipline by Georgia. Some bad tackling on the back end by Georgia. It was just, maybe they just didn't take Mississippi State seriously. Maybe they were looking ahead to Texas. Give you that simple. They ain't take them seriously. But I don't know. I did not like what I saw. Well, I do like it. But if I'm Georgia, I don't like what I saw from them going into this Texas game.
And if we say that they didn't take them seriously, then that is something else that has been kind of now a prevailing worry about the Georgia program, is that it's kind of getting out of control with all the off the field issues with, Kirby's talked about it of, messing up personnel groupings and substitutions are going wrong. And just people don't seem to be falling into the line where they're supposed to be falling into line.
Yeah.
That seems to be the prevailing issue for Georgia across the board. And so that goes into it. Is if you're not getting up for games because you're starting to look ahead, you can't look ahead. We're not good enough to do that anymore. Like we've already lost a game. We lost to Alabama, who the next week lost to Vanderbilt.
So they were not a juggernaut. They're good. Not a juggernaut.
They couldn't move the football against Vanderbilt. And they couldn't stop Vanderbilt. And they did both to us. So
yeah. No, like I said, they're still, it's Georgia. Don't get me mistaken.
Yeah.
But there are cracks now there are cracks in the armor. There are cracks in the dynasty that have become obvious with the issues off the field. There's no doubt about that. But I think you're starting to see some of those cracks on the field too. Just little cracks. No, and like I said, that's all it takes to lose a top 5 matchup is for you to have those types of cracks. Not saying Texas doesn't have any at all, but the ones from Georgia are more glaring. And Texas, we've talked about it. They have the fewest weaknesses of any team in the country. Right now, they have a couple that you can point out, but they do have the fewest weaknesses, glaring deficiencies of any team in the country. That has become clear now. That's why they're the number 1 team in the country right now. That is clear. Halfway through the season, Fewest weaknesses. Georgia's got some. We'll talk about them all week long. But I'll give you one right now. I'll give you one. I'll give you a glaring weakness of Georgia, just straight up, just right now, since we're talking about them. How about this? If you go look at the most yards lost to drops, Carson Beck is second in the country to yards lost to drop passes. 197 yards lost to drop passes.
Yeah.
Cracks. Like that's a buttoned up team. You'll see a lot of drops from Georgia during their dynastic run. But this year, because they don't have the skill talent they once had with McConkey and Brock Bowers, and it's still really good. It's still good skill talent, but it's not the best in the country. Potentially, you're seeing some few and guys been suspended because of them. They claim they're thinking they're in the Fast and the Furious movie. Then you're just seeing little cracks. But those are guys. We know stuff like that can add up over time. I mean, all it takes is a little mistake here, lapse in judgment there, lapse in focus here, and then you look up and you're in a game in the fourth quarter with a team you thought you were going to blow out. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit with Georgia. Like I said, I'm being nitpicky here because they're still a top 5 team, but there are cracks.
No, it's still by far the best team we've played so far this year.
No question.
That's one of those things when you talk about teams like this, when you go, oh, it's a down year for Georgia. Where are they? Number 5.
Yep. But that's where Bama was like the last 2 years when Texas played them. We're like, no, it's that Bama's down. I was like, where are they? They're going to the college football playoff, but they're down. It's a down year for them. They're not the juggernaut they used it, but it was true though. It actually was true.
It is. I mean, the fact that the conversation
that's what the standard is for those programs.
Yeah, the conversation for Georgia is 2 losses in a season. What do we do? It's Armageddon. That's really down is 2 losses.
That is exactly right. And Texas, I think Texas is about to show them that they're really down. They're about to get their second loss of the season, and we're like, man, something's going on there at Georgia. It's like, you're damn right, something's going on. And honestly, so what I've always said about dynasties, though, you can be pristine for only so long as a dynasty, because once you get to that 4th, 5th year of it, whether you are the Alabama Crimson Tide, or you're the New England Patriots, or whether you're the San Antonio Spurs, or whether you're the Golden State Warriors, it didn't matter. Once you get deeper into that dynasty, everybody can start to see your flaws. Maybe you already had them and nobody could see them because of how great you were, or maybe they just develop over time as the model deteriorates and, starts to degrade a little bit. But either way, we see this from all dynasties at the end. Look at the Patriots at the end of their dynasty, man. They all kind of, controversy and all type of scandals and stuff like that. You can't avoid it. Even the Golden State Warriors are like that. Kansas City now. Kansas City's got all types of issues on the field, off the field. Got all types of stuff going on now. But that's just because we've been staring at them so long from afar and looking upon them as they dominate their sport and as they are on the top of the mountain. And as you stare at them for so long, for years on years, you start to notice the cracks. You go, hey, there's a crack there. Something's off right there. Look at that. That's off too. That's off too. And then over a while, that's all you can see. But they're still great, and they're still at the top of the mountain. They're not pristine. They're not as perfect. They're an imperfect model when they once seemed to be striving toward perfection in their dynastic run. It's all right. It happens to all of them. And I think right now Georgia's in that phase too. Trust me, when Texas, if you're a Texas fan, you hope you get to that point. It happened in Texas. Think about Texas. Yeah. I mean, think about Texas in the 2000s, led into 2008, 9. And then you see all the flaws. You go, oh yeah, those things were actually there the whole time. And Texas wasn't even on a dynastic run; they were just on a really, really good run. Happens to all dynasties. I think it's happening right now to Georgia. All right, let's talk about Texas, Georgia a little bit more. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian on the other side. Sark spoke with the media yesterday, talked about their upcoming opponent, and had a lot of insight about Texas' mindset as a program heading into one of the biggest games in the history of the program, top 5 matchup. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian when we come back right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas-Georgia conversation. We were just talking about Georgia earlier and heard from Kirby Smart being very complimentary of these Longhorns. Let's hear from Steve Sarkisian, had his Monday media availability. Here is Sark's opening statement about their upcoming opponent, the Georgia Bulldogs.
That we're not a one-dimensional defense. It's you think to yourself.
Oh, sorry.
And we've got a heck of a challenge this weekend against Georgia. Very good football team. I have a ton of respect for Coach Smart and the job that he's done at Georgia. They've kind of somewhat been the standard of college football here now for the last 6-7 years. I think they've been to 7 SEC championship games. They won 3 in a row, back-to-back national champs, competed for a third. And so they've recruited really well. They've got great schemes. They're really well coached. I know the moment won't be too big for them coming into DKR. But with that being said, we need DKR to be rocking. We need to make sure that we've got a home field advantage, and one that our fans have done a tremendous job all year. And we're looking forward for that with another night game. A lot happening in Austin this weekend with F1, with College Game Day being here. And I think to the point I made to the players, we need to continue to stay enamored with us and what we need to do and focus on the task at hand, and not get caught up in what you guys are talking about or anybody else is talking about. It's not what other people say. It's actually about what we do. It's about our action, and we can control. And that was today's walkthrough and implementation of the game plan, and then focus on it one day at a time from there. So great challenge, great opportunity. I know our players are looking forward to it. Like I said, against a very good opponent.
That opponent is one of the best defenses in the country. That's a really hallmark characteristic, if you will, of the Kirby Smart, Kirby Smart blueprint to win, is that Kirby Smart's going to bring his defensive system with him. Sark should know it really well, especially spending his some time in there in the SEC. Here's Sark talking about what makes that Georgia defense so good.
Well, I think one, they've got a really good scheme. You got Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann, all on the same defensive staff. Those are probably 3 of the top defensive minds in college football. And then, and they're sound in what they do. They recruit really good players. They're big and physical up front. They've got great length in the secondary. They always have very smart, heady safeties to communicate, what they're trying to do. Third down, they give you a ton of exotic pressures and different fronts. And with all of that, they end up playing a lot of almost 2-man coverage. So now you're not only having to beat one guy to get open, you have to beat 2. But that's the scheming part, and they do a heck of a job with that. And so I think it's a combination of, they got a great scheme and a great staff to go along with, really talented players that play hard, and they're long and physical. And so those 2 things combined can make it difficult. I think on the flip side for us, it's, like I touched on earlier, you're always just trying to find somewhere where you can maybe exploit something that's maybe not a strength, maybe, but I don't really have to have too many weaknesses that way. And so just try to do our best to find some plays that can get us another first down and maybe get the ball in the end zone.
All right, we'll go over some of the potential weaknesses of that Georgia defense, because I do think this season a couple of teams have found some vulnerabilities with that Georgia defense, but there aren't many. Like you said, I mean, that's Kirby Smart's got that group pretty buttoned up. Let's hear from Sark talking about Carson Beck. There are some elite elements of this Georgia team, of course. One is that Kirby Smart defense. The other is Carson Beck, who's expected to be a first-round pick at the quarterback position. Here's Sark talking about Texas going up against the best quarterback prospect they've faced so far this season.
Carson Beck, I know really well. He was committed to us at Alabama and then ultimately decommitted and went to Georgia. He's a great young man, military background from his father. He's a big, strong kid, can make all the throws. He's got a real presence in the pocket, can make all the throws. And I think they have a scheme that fits him. They believe in the play action pass. They believe in the double moves. They're going to take plenty of shots down the field. They utilize the tight end. They utilize the running backs. And so there's nothing from a throw game that he really can't do. And he's played enough football now it's kind of hard to confuse guys when they've played that much football. And so that's going to be our challenge, right? How do we disrupt him in the pocket? How can we, create a little bit of hesitation in him from a coverage standpoint? And then we're going to have to play really well, in tight coverage, because he's going to make these throws, and they have elite speed on the perimeter. They're built very similar like us, whether it's, Arian Smith or Levet. I mean, those guys can all go. And so now you have to guard them, and they have an NFL quarterback throwing it to them.
Yeah, and they do like the double moves, actually, too. That's going to be a concern for Texas. I'm glad he brought that up. They got to have time to throw it, but they do like to get the double moves in. You got to be really disciplined with your eyes and your technique versus Georgia. Also, Texas is hopefully going to get a better performance out of their starting quarterback, Quinn Ewers. He was a little rusty versus Oklahoma. It's understandable. He missed almost a month with the 2 weeks that he missed and the bye week as well. So hopefully Quinn coming back will be the best version of himself. And here is Sark talking about Quinn, and after the game, how Quinn was adamant that he's got to be better for Texas to be the best team they can be.
I think one thing that Quinn, and I think any one of our players would kind of say the same thing. Like, we really believe in accountability, and accountability is taking responsibility for one's own actions. And I don't know if you remember, even a couple weeks ago, Jaden Blue came up to me and said, I can play better. And it's like, when you can really be honest and watch the tape or come out of a game and know how you played and say, okay, where is there room to be better? And then try to address it. And I think that's what Quinn's saying. And it's probably a little easier for a veteran player to acknowledge that than a younger player. But we really try to instill that into our players. Is about let's take accountability for our actions, whether it's on the field or off the field, and then move forward. And how do we get better because of it? And so I just think that's a sign of kind of what we try to instill in the players. And Quinn had a lot of that innately, but I do think our culture has helped that as well.
All right, let's start talking about Quinn. Yeah, I mean, Quinn has to know that I'm sure he was the first one to acknowledge that he didn't play well versus Oklahoma. If you're gonna, if you're gonna be the quarterback that potentially could be I don't think he's going to be a finalist, but be a first round pick and be in the conversation to be the top guy drafted, you'll be going up against another guy, Carson Beck, who's also in that conversation to be the top quarterback off the board. I think it would go a long way in Scout's eyes if Quinn can outplay Carson Beck on this big stage in this top 5 matchup. Trey Wisner has really relished the role of being the lead back for the last couple of weeks, especially in SEC plays, averaging over 7 yards per carry, and he was outstanding versus Oklahoma. There's talk now that maybe he should get more opportunities, expanding his role a little bit. Here's Sark talking about Trey Wisner's development so far.
I want to say yes, and you guys might not believe me, but he had a heck of a freshman year of just developing as a running back. But at the same time, we found out a lot about his speed and his toughness because of what he did on special teams last year. And he had a tremendous spring ball and the growth that what we saw during spring practice, and then the growth we saw in training camp, as he continued to get more opportunities. And so I'm not surprised. I guess what I'm learning more and more about him is he has a real natural running ability. He kind of reminds me of Jonathan Brooks at times, that you don't get wowed by the size. I don't know if you get wowed by the outright speed, but there's just a natural feel that he finds his way through holes. He's tough to get on the ground. He's physical when he has to be physical. And so I just think that he's got a natural running ability about him, but he also has speed and he has real toughness, which are kind of prerequisites at the position.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's patience, it's vision. It's a really nice combination of skills for Trey Wisner. And yeah, I think he's surprisingly physical. I don't think you expect him to be that physical, like one at the end of a run or when he's finishing a run, but he really is. And that's why I think he can run some of those in between the tackle runs, some of those gap schemes that Texas thought CJ Baxter would be great for. I think Trey Wisner actually can step up in that role, but be interesting to see versus Georgia, who's the lead back? Like, who's the lead back? Because it would seem to me that, Trey Wisner may have earned an expanded role. And I'm not saying that you have to relegate or even take Jaden Blue and change his change his role with the team. I'm not saying at all. I think you actually still can have Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner split a lot of those carries, but in terms of the way you use them and the way you deploy them and what schemes they're compatible with, I think Sark's now starting to figure that out, which could be dangerous. Because if now he knows, these are the run plays, these are the run schemes that Trey Wisner runs better. These are the schemes that Jaden Blue runs better. If we're at that point in the season, that would be real growth for the running game.
Yeah.
That's what you saw versus Oklahoma anyway.
I mean, if you can find a way to get both of them to have 80, 90 yards in a game because you're using them both properly and not using them in spaces where they don't fit properly, that's kind of the dream where you want to get to.
I agree.
We can find this, and Jaden Blue's going to get some more out of the passing game, and we can, swing him outside more and use him in that. And then Trey, we can put into other positions, run him through the middle, find his patience, let him pick up some big yardage for us, let him on second downs when we don't want to be in third and longs, and we feel that he can go get us enough yardage to put us into a good position. And just knowing where everybody is, that's really where you'd love to see it be by the end of the season.
Yep, I think that's where we are. I think there's going to be 3-4 concepts that Sark favors with each of these guys, with Jaden Blue and with Trey Wisner, and depending on the game plan, what the opponent is, what their strength is and what they're good at and what their strategy is, I think you'll see each of them have their own role and they'll thrive in it. But I think now Sark is starting to clarify those. He's got clarity on what those exactly are. So, all right, we'll hear more from Steve Sarkisian coming up next hour. But coming up next, we'll get into the topic for the big fat poll of the day and the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast on a Tuesday morning, and that means it's a top of the charts Tuesday where I'll play you songs that were number one on this day in history. Starting off with a little Ray Charles there for you. Let's get to big fat poll of the day. Text lines open 512-447-3776. And you can hit us up on X at the Horn ATX, where we will get this posted here in just a few minutes.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
All right, Big Fat Poll of the Day today. We've talked about the many different weapons of Texas. We just talked about Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue and using those two guys and finding out where they go. But we've talked a lot this season about having possibly half of your games having a different leading receiver. So let's go into which Longhorn, who has not led the team in receiving so far this season, is most likely to do so. So we'll say, which one do you think is most likely to lead the team in receiving before the season is over? We know who has led the team in receiving so far. Wingo did it in Colorado State and UTSA. Helm did it in Michigan and OU. Bond did it for ULM. And Moore did it for Mississippi State. So all those four have already done it, which leaves us with Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, Silas Bolden, and Jaden Blue would be your options of who has not led the team in receiving so far this season, who is most likely to do so.
It won't be Blue. It won't be Blue.
I don't think it will be either.
Too short. They're too short. He doesn't, unless he takes one to the house, which, that could happen too. But I don't think it'll be Blue. Yeah. He might lead in targets, but not in yards. They're all like short, quick, flare passes, swing.
No, he'd have to break. He'd have to break two of them.
Or you can take that. They love running, that wheel route with him, but they never complete it. Like it's just something they never complete. They run it and throw it a ton. They never complete it. He catches one of those, then you're talking. But it won't. It'll be tough to be Blue. It'll be tough for him.
Yeah. So you got Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, and Silas Bolden. And a lot of people love Silas Bolden. Hasn't gotten a ton of targets, but people love him.
Matthew Golden is probably the most likely.
I'd say he's the most likely. We also throw in
the most targets that he starts.
Sark mentioned we didn't talk about the injuries. That Isaiah Bond is basically, he said he looks a lot better, and all the reports are that he looks better than anybody thought he was going to look, and everyone's pretty optimistic about him being able to play against Georgia. But if he were to miss a game, that opens up a lot of space for other people to come through. But they're pretty optimistic. And then the other bad news was that Derek Williams is officially out for the season.
Yeah, they don't need to rush Bond, though. I mean, the beauty of Bond is that he's all about world-class speed, right? That's what makes him elite. If he doesn't have that because of an ankle injury, then he's not Isaiah Bond.
I get that. No, and
I mean, like, don't put him out there at 70%, and then he's just a regular he's just a jag. He's just a dude. When you got obviously guys behind him who have elite traits and they are closer to 100%, I wouldn't just put him out there for the sake of putting him out there just because he's been your leading receiver. If he doesn't have that dynamic, explosive element to him, it may be a liability against a team like Georgia, because that's what sets him apart. Is his elite world-class speed. That's not the case. Just give more reps to Ryan Wingo. Don't put him out there at 70%. Give me more Ryan Wingo.
Yes.
If that's the case, like, I'm serious. Like, don't put him out there at 70% because he's not going to be able to create separation against Georgia DBs like he would when he's obviously at full go. But Ryan Wingo, put him out there more and give him more reps. What do you think is going to happen if he gets more targets? He's going to make more plays. He might be your best receiver right now. I said at the beginning, I say he might be, just in terms of overall talent. I don't know if you got a more talented receiver in there. Now, in terms of refined, cultivated skill set and making sure they're an elite route runner, precision route runner, all those things, that's different. He had had time to develop that. But in terms of just raw skills, there's not a better receiver in there. Not a receiver that has more raw talent than Ryan Wingo.
No, I'm with you. And so that's where it gets the question. I mean, he's already led it twice, though.
Yeah, he's already twice. So he's good. Yeah.
He's already got his. So Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, who's another guy that if you want to put some more speed in there, Jonte Cook's got a little bit of speed. He can go out there and play more. We saw him, he had that big drop that I think if he caught that one pass a couple weeks ago, he's kind of viewed differently, but that pass is kind of hanging over his head right now. But if he's someone that could get in there a little bit more, does Silas Bolden get rewarded for his play? And maybe they try and get him a couple more and try and get him something explosive.
They've been trying to get him something. I mean, he lined up in the backfield in that Oklahoma game. They've been trying to scheme Silas Bolden open for a couple of weeks, and it just is not happening.
No, and
what I mean, like they've been trying their best. They've been trying little specific You can tell, like, it is Sark. Like, just putting him in the backfield is another example, but you can tell there are plays specifically designed just to get him the ball. He's the number one read, and they're force feeding him the football, and it just hasn't really worked out.
No,
It hasn't.
I
I don't
think
know
on
what the deal
on
is.
those deep balls, something I've noticed is that he's not like they love yak yardage. They love throwing to guys while they're running, and Bolden on most deep passes goes to the ground on the catch. Like he really kind of goes all out for it to get those, which he has a really wide range for a guy that size, but he doesn't really get yards after the catch. And so those are always difficult catches because he's kind of going all out to get them. And it just doesn't feel like he's ever found that one where he's gotten a pass where he's just got separation, just catches it and runs into the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, I can't really explain it. And they've tried to give him the ball on the move. They've tried to give him the ball in a yak opportunity. It just
hasn't worked.
It just ain't working. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was great in the Texas OU game, but it had nothing to do with him as a receiver.
Yep.
Really, I mean, that was just he went down there and recovered the fumble. That was more about his football character and him as a great teammate. The punt return, him as a special teams player and contributor, but as a receiver, it hadn't really happened. This might be the game. Maybe it is the game where it happens. But I wouldn't force the issue versus Georgia either. I mean, like I said, I'd go with more of the guys who have proven their productivity, which is a Wingo and a Golden. If Bond can go, if Bond's like 85%, great. But if Bond can't burn, if he can't burn away from and separate from opponents, that unique elite element is what makes him special. I mean, he's run the fastest time as a ball carrier at the college or the pro level so far this season. Nobody's run faster than Isaiah Bond when he was clocked by real analytics. So if you have that element, that's what makes him special. If you don't, you might. That's why you got the deep wide receiving core. What's the point of being 6 deep if you're just putting guys out there who are at 70% who aren't as effective as the guys behind them who are at 90%. So, all right, we'll see what Sark does. There you go. That's the topic for the big fat poll today. Which one of the receivers who has not led the Longhorns in receiving yards is most likely to do so coming up versus Georgia? All right, so we'll get to that, get back to that conversation. We'll get back to Texas, Georgia. Of course, on the other side, though, we got to talk some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll hear from Jerry Jones and from Dak Prescott, talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and also get into some Texans conversation, too. We got Raj Rant on the other side as well, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rad Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when Patrick plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. We appreciate him for all of his ideas and creativity on these musically themed days of the week. Also, Patrick comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted on X at the Horn ATX. Go check it out for yourself. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day. Which Longhorn who has not led the team in receiving so far this season is most likely to do so? Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, Silas Boulder, Jaden Blue. We know Ryan Wingo, Gunnar Helm, Isaiah Bond, and DeAndre Moore have all already done it. So they are off the list. So we'll give you 4 more names that it could possibly be: Matthew Golden, Jaden Blue, Jonte Cook, or Silas Bolden. Go ahead and vote on that at the Horn ATX there on X.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Blue out of it for me. It could easily, man, Bowden's just, it'd be crazy to think he's going to have a breakthrough game when nothing really has worked to help, spark him and get him going offensively. Like I said, last game, great contributions in the Texas OU game with the fumble recovery and the punt return. But in terms of him as a receiver and his offensive production, they've been trying to scheme him open and scheme him opportunities. They even had him in the backfield versus Oklahoma. Just really hasn't worked. So I don't know. I don't know if I see that breakout game versus Georgia for Silas Bolden. So,
well, I mean, I'm not just asking Georgia either. Just saying,
you just
at
saying
some point,
next period,
someone else is going to do it, because I think, I likely is one of the guys who's already done it is Bond, Helm, or Wingo is the guy who ends up doing it.
Well, Bond, I don't know if it's likely because of the injury.
But that's the thing is ankles are weird, that he could be 100% by Saturday easily. If it was a really mild sprain that he was just kind of hobbled on a little bit, but it's not a high ankle sprain, it's just a mild sprain, then he could be fine by Saturday pretty easily. But we don't know if that's the case or not. But that ankles, I've had ankle injuries that have lasted 3 days, and you're fine.
Yeah, well, like I said, I because I don't know, I would say, yes. It's I don't know exactly what's going on, but he had to leave the game. Usually, guys will come back. Like Ryan Wingo got hurt, came back.
Bond came
back. Guys
can
come back, and
Bond came back and then got hurt again.
I know, so I'm saying, like, he ended up leaving the game. Like, he wasn't Isaiah. Yeah. It wasn't Xavier Worthy come back in the game, stay in the game. He came back in the game, had to leave the game because he tried and it didn't. Obviously ended up getting hurt. So to me, I think maybe a little bit more serious. But I'm hoping that, like you said, it's just something that's going to come out a couple of days. But yeah, I would go with Matthew Golden is probably the most likely. I don't see Silas Bolden in all of a sudden becoming a featured weapon, maybe with the Bond injury, but Wingo, I believe, is the one that comes in for Bond, him being hurt, not necessarily Silas Bolden.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not sure. I'll go Matthew Golden or Jonte Cook, but Jonte Cook, something's going on. Either that drop has really, soured the perception of him or the opinion of him from coaches, or maybe there's something else that's going on. I haven't even seen that much of Jonte.
No, and it feels like Moore and Cook are more arch guys.
Could be, but Moore starts. Moore's a starter, though.
No, I get that. I get that where they're starters. I'm saying of guys who came in that class and have kind of been around Arch a little bit more, and I think I feel like they just have a better chemistry. And so they just haven't found that chemistry with Quinn yet, but that's still possible. But yeah, I don't know. He hasn't seemed to be on the field as much as you thought he would have been.
I'm saying, at this point, it's not just about the targets, because I think you're right about the targets. That's, maybe Arch has better chemistry with those guys, but I feel like I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Like a lot. You know what I mean? I have to go back and watch the Oklahoma game and see how many snaps I think Jonte Cook got in the game. But because he has been, kind of out of the picture, if you will, offensively for them, I think Golden seems to be the top choice. Right now, I think the votes are pretty much split on Jonte or Matthew Golden. So, but that's where you are in terms of first world problems you have.
Yes.
At wide receiver. You got we're trying to figure out which one of these guys is going to lead you to receiving next. And these guys were leading receivers on previous teams they were on.
Yeah,
Guys like
and
Matthew Golden and Silas Bowden.
when you
Silas
can,
Bowden's like the leading receiver, or say we're like, I don't know if there's a place for him. We got to find somewhere.
no, when you're saying who wants to be the fifth guy to lead the team in receiving in a game.
Yeah,
that's not a bad problem.
I'm with you. Not a bad problem to have at all. Great problem to have. All right. So that is the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We'll also talk some Texas football when we get into Rod's rant, and we'll discuss some possible X factors and different ways that Texas can expose and exploit that Georgia defense. I'm looking at that Georgia defense first because that is their calling card, right? Of Kirby Smart football. You got to find a way to vanquish that defense if you're going to beat Kirby Smart. And so we'll talk about ways that Texas can expose that Georgia defense. We'll get into that when we go into Rod's rant. This segment we'll get into a little Cowboys discussion. We'll talk some Texans. You had the game last night. Bills pulling off a close win over the Jets, 23-20. So we can get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets there. But first, let's take this time to get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB playoffs, the Mets tied the NLCS against the Dodgers with a 7-3 win yesterday. The Mets put up 5 runs in the second inning, including a grand slam from Mark Vientos to take a commanding lead. In the ALCS, the Yankees took Game 1 5-2 over the Guardians, with the Yankees scoring 2 runs off of wild pitches in the third inning. Game 2 is tonight with Tanner Bibby pitching for Cleveland against Garrett Cole. And in the NFL, the Bills improved to 4-2 on the season with a 23-20 win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. The game was marred by penalties and poor kicking, with both teams committing 11 penalties and missing 2 kicks in the game. A 52-yard Hail Mary to Allen Lazard to end the first half put the Jets back in the game. However, neither team could find the end zone in the second half, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Let's talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. They got a bye week, and it couldn't have come at a better time because they need it badly. We got some audio of Jerry Jones that we'll play here because they're asking, a lot of people are asking him now about Mike McCarthy's jobs and his status as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Remember, he's still a lame duck coach. All right, no extension for him. Everybody's kind of on, at least the coaches are kind of those 1-year deals, him and Mike Zimmer. And so we'll hear from him and hear from Dak too. Somebody asked Dak a really interesting question about what I believe is like what he sees when he looks in the mirror. Like it's a very strange question. I like Dak's answer though. But it was kind of, I talk about the man in the mirror moment all the time for coaches and for players, right? You have a bad game. It's about accountability. You got to be accountable to the man in the mirror. So they asked him about that, and we'll play Dak's response. But the Dallas Cowboys at this point, it's pretty clear if they don't do something during this bye week that the Cowboys are satisfied with the status quo. And if they are satisfied with the status quo, then that is a problem because that means the Cowboys are not necessarily trying to win championships. And I don't know if you're a Cowboys fan, how you reconcile that and what you do with that. Because there's a lot of gaslighting by Jerry Jones over the years that that they are indeed all in and doing everything they can to win a championship. Based on what we've seen so far from this Cowboys team, they're inadequate right now. They have glaring deficiencies. And then you'll add to the narrative over the years, right? That because lately what started to become a topic of conversation among people who criticize the Cowboys or Cowboys Nation is the stadium, right? And the design flaw of the stadium with the sun, right, shining right down onto the field, which, yes, beautiful pictures, by the way, gorgeous pictures. I mean, you can't create light like that. Only God can. But it it is something that it is an obstruction, basically an impediment to your team's success, because there are times during the games where, depending on the time of day that the game is, well, the sun is shining onto the field, directly on the field, and I guess you could say, hey, it hurts both teams. It is something that is a factor for both teams, but it just shows you that there's an emphasis on style over substance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the example of it. It's like, well, yeah, but why would you want that to why would you want the sun, all right, and the glare of the sun to be a factor in the football game? And it's not about factor, but he just wants it to be something that for the aesthetic that just makes everything look better. It's like, well, that shouldn't be your primary concern. Your primary concern should be, how does this the architecture of this stadium help us win games? Can it help us win games? And that's not the concern for Jerry. The concern is the aesthetic. But that's why they're the most valuable franchise in all of sports in all the world, because Jerry understands that it is, even though we look at it as, hey, you got to win championships, it's a competitive sport. Jerry looks at it as it's an entertainment business. It's about entertainment. So yes, the aesthetic matters, and we're talking about the entertainment business. But it does. I mean, think about another example, right? There are tons of these. The DeMarvion Overshown example, he's joking, and but he's serious, but he's having fun with it. He's lighthearted. That he wanted the number 0, but he couldn't get it because it was Rowdy's number.
Yep.
And it's like, well, yes, but you should just give the guy he's a player that wants that number, and for some reason maybe it inspires him. Maybe for some reason it could be, who knows? Maybe it's just something that is personal to him. I have no idea. I mean, he's talked about stuff in the Agent Zero thing, whatever. Or maybe it's just superstition. Who cares? If it makes him play better, that's what it matters. Like, if the guy's comfortable, it makes him play better, then give him number 0. But he's like, nah, man, it looks, it's Rowdy's number. It looks good on Rowdy. And like I said, it's trivial and shallow, but I think just another example of how sometimes with the Cowboys, there is the priority of style over substance. And, not doing anything in this bye week will let you know they're definitely not worried about the substance. I'm not sure if they're prioritizing style, because it's got nothing to do with that. But there are so many examples of the Cowboys not putting the product first and not putting winning as their top priority. And this would be another example of it if they don't make a move during the bye week. So they got time, but if they don't do something, Patrick, then I'll know. Yeah, this is the Cowboys once again deciding there are other things that are way more important for this organization than winning on the football field.
No, because if they don't come out, the line will be, we think we're in a good place to win coming out of the bye week. And they're basically hoping to be 500 when they hit the trade deadline, because if they're at 500, they think they can convince the fan base they're okay. We've been here before. We can still make the playoffs. And we make the playoffs, we've got a shot, which we all know is kind of BS in the NFL. We made it. We can, like, no, because you expanded the playoffs. So now a lot more teams can get in, and not every one of them has got a shot to win a Super Bowl. So it's big. I mean, you would like to see stuff coming sooner rather than later in the bye week. You would like to see these stories coming in so that you can get a guy in and get him a full week of work and get him, into town and ready to go. You'd love to be able to see that. But, I mean, every time you hear it, it seems to be more of what you just said, which is that line between we know what we're doing and we don't, and it's not about winning, or we don't have the foresight to see what the actual real issues are going to be. We think we can do both, and we're just missing the foresight. We think this design flaw won't be that bad. It'll be for 20 minutes in a game. What could happen in those 20 minutes?
What could happen?
That could happen in those 20 minutes multiple times. So how much is that line in between? We don't think it'll mess us up that bad. We don't think that we need to have another running back because we think we can get enough out of our running backs. We don't need to. We just need our guys to play better. It's like, well, everybody needs their guys to play better. What is your edge in this? What is going to make you stand apart from it? And it just gets down to, for Jerry Jones, he's seeming to be more combative a little bit nowadays.
He is, yeah, because I think he knows. You can tell he's on the defensive quicker. Usually he's cracking some jokes and throwing out some one-liners or something, but he was very defensive. As a matter of fact, we have this audio of Jerry Jones. I think he's been asked about Mike McCarthy here, and
yes, he's asked a question of, would you consider? Are you at a point where you would consider making a coaching change, or what? What point would you consider making a coaching change?
Yeah, in season, I believe too is kind of right. That's what is implied here. Here's what Here's Jerry Jones' response.
Jerry, what would it take you to evaluate making a head coaching change in season?
Oh, I haven't even considered that. I'm not considering that. Just so you're clear, I'm not considering that.
But you've done it.
Don't I wouldn't be a hypothetical in that matter. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you? Okay, well, I'm not going to hypothetical with you about when I'd consider coaching change in light of the timing we're sitting here with. I'm not at all.
Nah, so not considering it at all. But that's not what the question was. When would you? Right? It was like, so what? At what point would he get that?
I get Jerry not wanting to answer it because he goes, anything I say, you are going to spin into a way that says I'm firing Mike McCarthy this week.
Yeah, but you not signing him to an extension has let us all know how you feel about Mike McCarthy. We all know how you feel about him. We all know how you feel about him. You ain't got to tell anybody. You have not signed him to an extension. We know you don't love him.
Yes.
Okay. You ain't got to tell us. We just want to know when, at what point are you going to decide, all right, you know what? I'm done. You're out.
And this is the real question, Jerry. Are you going to fire your coach, or are you going to get a player? Are you going to do something, or is this good enough?
Yeah, so I said, what happens this bye week? Because something's got to happen. You can't just say status quo. We're satisfied. We assume we'll just get better. Hope is not a strategy, Jerry.
Yes, it's the question is when we say is this good enough for you, and you can't respond with our players need to play better. You can't respond with coaches need to coach. You have to respond with somebody from the front office. Pretend you are not the owner of the team. You're just the general manager, and the owner has come to you and told you our team needs to be better. What is your response to that? And he won't answer that question because he will constantly say, I think our team has enough talent on it. We have enough people. And you can look at it and go, well, clearly something is off because whenever you play good teams, you're not playing well.
Do you got to play San Fran after this bye week? So you'll know if you got better or not. There'll be a glaring example of whether you regressed or whether you got better, because you should be healthier. Not, obviously some guys will still be out because they'll be on the IR. You should be healthier, and you should have a decent game plan versus San Fran, because San Fran really well. Yep. Been playing San Fran in the playoffs and the season for like the last 4 years. You know this team, and you know how they operate. And by the way, they're not playing their best football. They're pretty banged up.
Yeah,
San Fran ain't right now. It's not a juggernaut. So we shall see how you play. If you play, I'm not saying if they lose, that means the Cowboys need to fire Mike McCarthy, but they don't show up again. We have a no-show performance again. We got a problem.
Yeah.
And if the Cowboys don't do something the bye week, that's also a problem.
Yeah. So basically you're looking here, you have the bye week, then you have San Francisco, then you have Atlanta, and then the actual trade deadline between weeks 9 and 10. So there is time to still make a trade, even after this bye week. Your general concept is you like to add a player in a bye week to give them the best chance to get in. You'd also like to do it now before the 49ers game, because if you can then win a couple games and get above 500 again and get back into the winning column, that changes what your season looks like a lot more. But if you're going into the trade deadline and now you're 3-5, are you really going to go out and spend a bunch to go bring in players? Yep. Or are you just throwing in the towel for the season and saying, out of it. Hopefully our guys will get better? We do have a lot of talent on this team. And when they get healthy, we could make a run, but we're not investing in that run. And if Jerry Jones doesn't want to invest in this team more than he has, which he doesn't do a lot, and I know it's a big component of contention. I know they paid Dak. I know they paid CD. There is a floor minimum of what you can pay players, what you have to pay your roster in the NFL. They're above that. They don't go above more. It's a weird thing. I get the salary cap seems like it should make it not be this way, but it is. You can spend more money. You can spend less money. The Cowboys don't spend more. They just don't.
Yeah, no, that says we've talked about that ad nauseum. Yeah, the Cowboys have been one of the, especially when it comes to cash spending. Yes. They have been one of the teams that spends the least amount of cash out there, and they're just not active in all acquisition markets, trade, free agency. Not saying they have to make the big splashes, but they should look at every possible way, an option to improve the team, to upgrade, and they don't necessarily do that. They like being homegrown, nothing wrong with that. But I think there are times like this where your running back position. Here, I'll give you a stat about the running backs for the Cowboys. And I saw this. Shout out to RJ Ochoa. I believe he's the one that threw it out there. Just showing you where the state of the Cowboys running back position overall. And so it says basically, if you look at since the beginning of 2023, there have been 5 running backs to have a 6-game stretch, all right, with at least 38 carries in those 6 games and to not gain no more than 115 yards, which is obviously not really good. So at least 38 carries, but your productivity being so subpar, you don't even gain over 115 yards on those 38 carries in a 6-game stretch, right? That's the criteria. There are 5 running backs that fit this criteria. And there's a quarterback in there too, but let's look at the running backs. Ezekiel Elliott is on this list. Miles Sanders, Matt Breida's on this list, and Dalvin Cook's on this list. Oh, and yeah, D'Onta Foreman makes it too. Yeah. And the Cowboys have 2 of these guys. They're Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott in terms of guys who've had some of the least productive stretches in the NFL for a running back in the last 2 years. And I don't know if that's the Cowboys, you know what I mean? Well, for Dalvin Cook, it's definitely not. But if you go look at it, it's for the Cowboys. I think that's where you need to look to address the running back position, period. You need some juice. You need to add someone who can break a play at the running back position. And then if you go look at rushing yards the Cowboys have allowed, the Dallas Cowboys have, let's look at rushing yards, period. They have 463 rushing yards through the first 6 games. It is the second fewest amount of rushing yards they've ever had through the first 6 games of the season. Sticking with, they need to do something at running back, and they need to do it now. It's becoming drastic. And I think on the flip side of that, they need to do something with their rush defense, and I think they need to start at D tackle. So those are the 2 positions I expect them to address this in the bye week. And if they don't address it during the bye week, I don't know what that says about the Cowboys' intentions. Probably says they don't care much about it.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I'd call the Panthers right now and see if they want to come off one of the running backs. Yep. You say Jonathan Brooks will probably be coming back soon for them, so they may want to clear up a little bit of space. But they have some guys that aren't, necessarily.
Chuba Hubbard still there?
Chuba's, and he's been having a really good season so far because Canellis has been, picking up that run game a little bit.
Yeah, Chuba's not bad. Chuba's not. He has some juice. I like that.
So you can go after him. You could go after Miles Sanders, who has not played well at all recently, but he's another guy you could technically go after on their roster. But they may okay with trading Hubbard or Hubert if they're like, we're not going to re-sign him. We just drafted Brooks, so if we can get something back for him, and Brooks will be our guy that we can get going forward. Maybe you can bring him in, and he gives you a little bit of gas.
I like that.
But we're now at the point of the season. It's earlier on. It's harder to tell if teams are going to be sellers. But now you start looking and go, are you a 1 or 2 win team? Let's call them.
I think you're right. I love that idea because the Panthers are out of it. So they're definitely sellers at this point. They're looking toward next year. So
yeah,
that's what you need to do. Find teams that are looking toward next year already. It's early, but there are a couple of teams already that are we're out of it. Are the Bengals out of it?
They don't have a running back. Remember the Texans already got their running back.
Yeah, you're right. And they're getting ready to play. I'm just thinking about teams that are basically out of it already.
No, I mean,
got no shot.
An interesting one, another one would be Cleveland. If you went into Cleveland, who has Nick Chubb coming back, I don't think they'd want to part with Nick Chubb. I mean, if you get Nick Chubb, that would be huge. But
oh yeah, you're not savvy enough to do it.
But they're 1-5 on the season. It feels like they're
That's what you need to do. You look at all those rosters of the worst teams, and then like you did with the Panthers, and go, all right, let's look at them. Let's see. We know they're selling. We just don't know what the price is. Who you
don't need to call is Tennessee to get back Tony Pollard. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Just like you did with Zeke. You're bringing back retreads. And no, don't do that.
Move forward. Forward progress.
Because the Zeke thing has been, can we agree? I don't know if you can say it's a disaster, but it hadn't worked out. You didn't get better by signing Zeke. You're not a better football team for signing Zeke.
No,
it's
pretty
obvious.
I'm sure the hangouts are cooler, but
yes, the locker room is probably in a better mood because I know he's a locker room favorite.
I feel like they didn't look like they were in a good mood the other day.
Well, yeah. After the Lions put an Old Testament style butt whip
Tell
on,
ya.
I'm sure nobody.
I'm sure you'd have fun FaceTiming with Zeke after a win. Have him in the
There you
locker
go.
room
That's
with you.
exactly right. Yeah, there you go. That would solve that problem right there. Because honestly, he'd probably be retired. Because I don't know if anybody else would pick him up.
Forced, yes.
All right, there you go. So that's some kind. Oh, can we hear from Dak real quick? The man in the mirror moment. I like this. I like the question. I like the response. I like them both. I decided to play. I don't even know if it actually brings any insight into our Cowboys conversation, but I like the audio. Here's Dak when he's asked about what he sees when he looks at the man in the mirror.
Dak, Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Common theme with you and your teammates has been, look in the mirror. When you look in that mirror coming out of the bye week, what are you hoping to see in the reflection?
It's an interesting question there. I know what I'll see. A winner, a leader, and somebody's going to push his guys to be better, myself to be better, this whole locker room. We're not going to panic. We're 6 games in. We're 3-3. Got, 5 division games left, and that's those are huge. Got a big one coming up here against San Fran. So it's a lot of football left. It's about just being accountable. And when I say that, trust me, I'm as accountable, I feel like, as anybody in this world, whatever we may be talking about. So just making sure other guys feel the same, do the same, and push themselves to be better.
All right, there you go. And you know what? Thank goodness they're playing on the road. Right? Those next 2 games against 49ers and against the Falcons, I think, are on the road. They need to be on the road. I hate to say it, that right now at home, there's something going on with the Cowboys at home. I mean, they're getting not just beaten at home, they're getting mollywopped at the house. They seem to, I don't know, for some reason, there seems to be more camaraderie on the road. They seem to play, maybe it's an us against the world mentality. They seem to have a better focus on the road now than at home. So glad they're on the road at least, And we're talking about the Cowboys rushing offense and how it has to improve and how it's historically bad right now. The rushing defense, to give you a little analytical stat about the rush defense and how bad it is, not a good sign going into a game versus the 49ers in that Shanahan run scheme, but they got some time to figure some things out. The Cowboys are currently giving up 0.17 EPA per design rush. So here's some context on that. If you tag those design rushes going all the way back to 2006, this is from ESPN Stats and Info. The worst single season in those 18 years was 0.13 EPA per design rush. Dallas is on pace to be historically bad in that context because right now they're at 0.17 EPA per design rush. Better figure things out before you go on the road and play the 49ers. All right, with that rush defense, it has improved. All right, it got better for those 2 weeks against the Giants and the Steelers. What we saw versus the Lions makes you think that, okay, it was more the opponent than it was the Cowboys' improvement. So you're going up against one of the most formidable run schemes in NFL history and one of the pioneers of it with a true Shanahan. I don't know who's going to be in the backfield for him because I'm not sure about Jordan Mason's health. They might be on their 4th or 5th running back. Who knows? It don't matter. Cowboys better get it fixed. And I suggest with trading for a running back, you also trade for a run-stuffing D tackle because you're going to need them. If you don't, it's going to be trouble for them Cowboys on the road at San Fran because they're in desperation mode now too. Like this is a desperate 49er team because they feel like things are slipping from them. You know what I mean? Some second half comebacks on them. They've lost a couple of games in division. They're feeling a little desperate now, too. So you're going to have a desperate 49er team. You should be playing desperate as well. It should. And the 49ers have, Kansas City, I believe, this week during your bye. So they got a big game. And truth is, they'll probably be coming off a loss. and Shanahan will be upset because they'll probably go like the Super Bowls have gone, where they have a double-digit lead and end up losing the double-digit lead to Mahomes in the clutch gene in the 4th quarter. That's probably how that game's going to go. The Kansas City is going to beat them, and then they're going to be even more desperate. Just telling you. They're going to be hungry and mad and angry after losing to Kansas City. Isn't it Kansas City? Am I wrong about that?
I don't know.
All right, I'll go check it. I'll go check. I think it is, but I'll go check that out and make sure. All right, we go back. We'll get into Raj rant of the day. We'll talk about schemes. I want to get into what I think Sark and what I think the Texas offense, what I think they can accomplish and what they can get done versus Kansas City at San Fran.
It is.
Well, they can get done at versus Georgia. Georgia's defense, we know it's stout, it's formidable. I've already noticed some cracks that I think Sark can take advantage of. We'll discuss that on the other side when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas Georgia conversation. I was looking at that, obviously, that Georgia Bama game. You want to start, looking at weaknesses for that Georgia defense. You kind of start there because Alabama did some really interesting things to catch Georgia off guard and really take advantage of their pass defense. I think Georgia's run defense is stout. I think it's going to be a problem for Texas potentially to get their running game going early against Alabama. But it was a struggle a little bit early on versus Oklahoma, right? Sark, we talked about it yesterday. Was troubleshooting that run game and finally found that split zone and went with it and popped it a couple of times in the second quarter. That's all it took for Texas to separate. But I want to start with the passing game because I still think Texas is going to lead with the pass. They didn't in the Oklahoma game, but that was because Sark saw that Quinn was off and decided, all right, and it would probably be ill-advised for me to put the game in Quinn's hands. So they went with basically a 50% early game, early down pass rate. But I think versus Georgia, you'll get back to 65% early game, early down pass rate. with Quinn. And one of the things, even in the Oklahoma game, so Quinn was off, right? That was one of the big storylines, was that Quinn was off and she was still able to win the game. He was off, but there was one passing concept where Quinn was perfect, and it was out of empty formation. He was perfect. He was off in that entire game, but Sark found one concept that really worked. He was 100% completion percentage out of empty. Your first down rate out of empty was over 50%. You had over 50%. Actually, I think it was like 57% actually, your first down rate. And you go look at the explosive plays, you had a 21-yard. Remember that helm drive? You had 2 plays out of empty on that drive. The first play to Bond, I believe, was out of empty, and then your 2nd and 8, you got to that 21-yarder from Helm. That was out of empty formation, the catch and run. He did most of the work, but you were able to engineer the one-on-one with Gunnar Helm. So you had multiple explosive plays. You had a 23-yarder to Golden out of empty formation, and you had that 21-yarder to Helm out of empty formation. So you ended up with getting, a 50+% first down rate. You had 2 explosive plays out of empty formation. And remember, there was also the Ryan Wingo PI. If I'm not mistaken, that Ryan Wingo pass interference, that also came out of empty formation. So Texas actually did really well when they ran empty formation versus Oklahoma. And then I went and looked at that Georgia-Bama game, and it was one of the ways that Bama broke tendency versus Georgia. 14 of this is actually right after that game. So this is up until that Georgia-Bama game, these stats here. So they're not necessarily current. But 14 of Alabama's 23 empty formations up until that point when they played Georgia, they came against Georgia. Like they had only 9 empty formation reps the entire season before that Bama game. And then they played Bama. You see them, they broke it out versus Alabama as kind of a big time tendency breaker for them. And they had 14 such reps. So they had more than they had all season versus Bama. It was definitely something they were saving for, saving for Georgia. So Bama only had, to me, they had 14 of them in that game, had 9 of them prior to that the entire season. Those 14 snaps of empty formation included 68% of their total yards from empty all season long. So they were mashing Georgia out of empty. Now, for Alabama, it's a little bit different because I think probably the most stressful formation to defend is empty formation with a dual threat quarterback added to it as a +1, because not only are you stressed formationally and you have to abandon disguise, get to your alignment, get to your assignment, but then you have to have somebody spying that quarterback because there's nothing but space that quarterback can run. And then that takes away from the guys that you can have in coverage. So you don't have much coverage help, and then you got to spy the quarterback. And if that quarterback's twitchy, you just talk about a one-on-one situation in the open field with most of the guys with their backs turned. Now, you could play zone against that empty formation, but then you're just leaving wide open areas and voids in coverage on the field and making it easy on the quarterback to just play pitch and catch. So you got to decide what you're going to do. And against Alabama, Georgia, sometimes they would blitz it. Sometimes they would end up dropping 8. So they ran it. Jalen Milroe ran it out of that empty formation a few times. But the passes are what really caught my eye, because Quinn's not going to be running out of empty formation. He's going to be chunking the ball. 89% success rate on 9 passes for 154 yards out of empty formation versus Georgia. See, it in the passing game, it really worked. Now, they probably had the threat of the running game, but if you're Texas, there are other ways where you can manufacture that kind of threat, but they're susceptible to empty formation. Alabama had a lot of success, and Quinn is a way more sophisticated and accurate precision passer in the short to intermediate game. So my first X factor tendency breaker for Texas, they should run empty formation versus Georgia. They should run it early. They should run it often. I wouldn't mind seeing 10 snaps of it. Hell, Alabama had 14 snaps of it. I wouldn't mind you being in that realm, 14 to 15. 14 to 15 is where you should be, around there. And this is why, because it didn't just work against Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's a good defense, right? Oklahoma is one of the best defenses you played so far. And Oklahoma, when they were dealing with empty formation, like I said, they dealt with a number of ways. Usually a team is just going to blitz it or they're going to drop 8 out of it. And either way, for the offense, it helps you. Either way, it cleans up the look. It clarifies the look for you. Because one of the big things that Brent Venables did against Quinn successfully, and he does it against everybody because he plays mind games, he's very creative and very innovative, is he's going to give you a different pre-snap look than post-snap. So he's always playing mind games. You always know what you saw pre-snap really is more misinformation than information. Because then post-snap, you're going to see something totally different. That dude's going to be moving around, dropping from the mid-level to a single high, dropping from, the half field down to linebacker level. He's just doing all type of funky stuff. But when you go empty, they can't do that stuff. They have to abandon disguise. Nobody's disguising against empty. You can't. You're too stressed. You got to get your alignment assignment right away. Usually, are default coverages that you go to because it's like, all right, we're in empty. We're going to run this coverage. We're going to run cover 1 with a robber. Go. Like, that's just what we run versus empty. And we automatically check to it. That's a lot of teams have automatic checks for it. That's good for you. Trust me, it's really good. And so you force teams to abandon their shell and their disguise. And that's why it's good for Quinn, because then it just clears everything up. That's why he's 100% completion percentage. And it ain't just against Oklahoma. Guys, how about this? In the last 8 games. So I take it back. Last 9 games now. Because we're going back 3 to last year and the 6 from this year. All right. So the last 3 of last year, that was Tech, Oklahoma State, and Washington, along with the 6 games this year. These are Quinn's numbers in empty formation. Over 80% completion percentage. Over 25% explosive rate. Actually, you're probably closer to 30% explosive play rate. First down touchdown rate, over 50%. Averages over 10 yards per attempt, over 9 yards per play. Running empty formation in the last 9 games. You're 6-0 start here and going back to last year. He's becoming more comfortable in empty formation. You did have I think you had a couple of sacks thrown in there, maybe 2 sacks from last season, but usually sack rates drop in empty because the ball's out quickly. I'm telling you, you want to blitz Georgia with that speed that you have on offense, and you want to maximize your strengths, which is your deep wide receiving core, your pass blocking offensive line. Here's how good and by the way, the ball's coming out so quickly, you don't really have to insulate the pass protection, but you'll have insulated pass protection in empty because Quinn, the ball's out by 2.1, 2.2 seconds anyway. That's just how he operates when he's comfortable. So the ball's out relatively quickly. And guys, right now, you're no tackle duo in the country is right now as effective at keeping their quarterback clean, untouched by the hands of man, as Kelvin Banks and Cameron Williams. How about this? They've only allowed one pressure. Cam Williams and Kevin Banks have allowed a combination of 1 pressure in 6 games, 0 sacks. On 322 combined pass blocking snaps, they've allowed 1 pressure. Guys, you're good. You ain't got to worry about the pressure getting there because, you got 5 guys out on routes either because your offensive line's so good. So to me, that's why empty's working better because your skill positions now are deeper than they've ever been, and including Jaden Blue, who now you can use in the passing game. That's probably where he's most comfortable anyway, and he's a threat if you decide to just motion him out there in empty. And then, so you're deep at wide receiving core. Nobody has the DBs, maybe Georgia does, to really match up with all your skill talent across the board. Your offensive lines, pass blocking as well as any in the country, and Quinn's strength is the short to intermediate game, and that's what empty is about. Empty, very rarely are you going to go deep in empty. You don't have a ton of time. You can go. Matter of fact, one of Arch's touchdowns is an empty. Right, the 49-yarder DeAndre Moore, if I'm not mistaken, is empty formation. Yeah, so it's one of those things where you can do a lot of different things with it. But that's how I would start attacking Georgia. I would attack them out of empty formation. And one other thing that they're out there too, and we'll get into that later, but just based on what I saw in the Georgia Bama game and what I just recently seen from Texas and what was the most successful passing concept that they had versus Oklahoma, a good defense, and what was the most effective passing concept for Alabama versus Georgia when they played, and when they beat Georgia, they only lost on the season. And then based on what we've seen from Quinn, with Quinn as a quarterback with that specific concept, the empty formation, over an expanded sample size of 8 games, right? Basically, 3/4 of a season. And what I have is that empty formation will work versus Georgia because it's been working for you for the last 8 games with Quinn as your starting quarterback. So go with God and go with empty. All right, we'll come back. We'll have what the facts, what the stats on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some what the facts, what the stats here coming up on the show. We appreciate all you guys sticking for us. So how about this one? I got this. This comes from a Pro Football Focus breakdown of quarterbacks who have had the most turnover-worthy throws and the most interceptions on the season. So who do you think has had the most turnover of starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Who's had the most turnover-worthy throws? And I'll tell you, it's 9 is the most. I'll just tell you of the starting quarterbacks. Who do you think had the most? I know it's actually. I was a little surprised by this guy, but it makes sense. But I was kind of surprised by him. Kirk Cousins at the top.
Okay. Yeah.
9 turnover-worthy throws. Only 5 interceptions of 9 turnover throws. So we had some luck with him. Geno Smith, along with Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Bo Nix, and Deshaun Watson all have 8 turnover-worthy throws. But of those, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Bo Nix all have 4 interceptions. CJ Stroud has 7 turnover-worthy throws, only 3 interceptions. Good for CJ Stroud. He and Matthew Stafford there. How about this? Patrick Mahomes, 7 turnover-worthy throws and 6 interceptions. So damn near every time he doesn't make a bad decision very often. When he makes a bad decision, it's usually ends up being an interception. Some guys have better luck.
Patrick Mahomes, I think, has had much better luck the previous every year of his career.
He's had a lot of dropped interceptions.
In his career. So maybe this is catching up to him this season.
Could be. Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah, he's had enough that I don't feel bad for him right now.
Because he's one of your league leaders, I believe, in interceptions with 6. Yeah. He is one of your league leaders.
And he's also a guy who's really, really good at seeing the flags when they come out for like an offsides or something like that. He's good at catching guys.
Aaron Rodgers
and he throws so many picks on those plays. And
you're right. He does. He does a great job of that.
And so he throws.
I won't say he has the most. He has the most. Like interceptions called back because of penalties.
Yes. And that's the thing is you just watch them and it drives people insane because they a lot of times will look at this backwards and think that they called the flag because of the interception. You're like, the flag got thrown. That's why he threw a stupid pass.
That's why he threw a stupid pass. He's like, I got a freebie. Yeah. Freebie. I'm just throw it anywhere. Yeah. No, you're right about that. Aaron Rodgers used to be great at that in his prime too. He just he see the freebie, we're like, and then his receivers, they were like, no too. It was weird. Like they would also know, let's just go deep and let's just take a shot, whatever we got. And it would work out for him a lot of times too. Unbelievably so. Lamar Jackson, how about this? 5 turnover-worthy throws and only 1 interception. Guys, Lamar Jackson's having a better start to this year than he did for his last MVP campaign. So what do we do about that? You can't give him the MVP back-to-back years. But right now, I mean, he's got to be one of the leaders along with, matter of fact, I think CJ Stroud actually too is starting to convince some people that he should be one of the front runners in the MVP conversation as well. So we'll play that audio to actually talk some Texans because D'Amico Ryans might have taken a shot at Josh Allen. I'm not sure. We got to get into that too because he had a quote about Jordan Love, and some people are taking it as disrespect to Josh Allen. So we got to get to that a little bit later on.
I mean, it's going to be Sam Darnold though, right?
That's exactly. Come on. There's no way Sam Darnold's going to win an MVP. There's no way. Like people just don't believe it enough. That's not going to happen. Even if he continues to play like this, he's not going to win MVP because it's like Jaden Daniels, right? He's a rookie quarterback. He continues to play like this, which he is. He's playing really well.
Yes.
He's not going to win MVP just because he's a rookie. They're not going to give it to him.
Yeah.
And they don't give it to Sam Darnold because they're going to think, this is not for real. And they're not going to believe it. We don't need to see it another season.
Yeah, we don't want to give it to you and then you be bad again next year.
And you make all of us look bad.
Yeah, because then we're like, wait, what happened? Why do we believe this?
Yes, no, exactly. I think that's what it is. So for Sam Darnold, his previous resume is working against him.
Yeah.
Jay Daniels, your inexperience is working against him.
Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes' previous resume doing him tons of favors that he's still leading in the
you're right, because he's not playing well right now. Right?
Josh Allen's playing better than Lamar Jackson's playing better than him. Hands down. CJ Stroud is questionably playing better than him. And they're both 5-win teams right now.
Yeah. No, you're right. The MVP is gonna be weird this year. It's gonna be a weird one. It's gonna be a strange one. I don't know how it's gonna play out.
We also know there's the end of the season. Now that they're adding in that Christmas game.
Yeah.
That there's just so many games happening down that stretch that's where people are gonna win and lose the MVP is because that end of year run. All this stuff we talk about now is great, but a lot of it will be forgotten by December and January.
Yeah, because the Texans they play Kansas City late. thank God Miami's not going. I don't know. They say Tua might come back. Remember that stretch for the Texans has Miami,
Yes.
I think, in it too,
Yeah, I
somewhere
think
down
so.
there. That's not looking as tough of a stretch as it once was. But no, you're right about that. That's right. We're talking about it now, but it won't be decided until like a month and like 6 weeks from now is when they'll actually start deciding in their minds who's going to be the MVP. Okay, one other quick stat here. How about this one? Texas football has already made history in the SEC, becoming the first team to score 250 plus points and allow fewer than 40 through the first 6 games of a season. So there you go. Longhorns already making history. How about this about Georgia, though? Georgia, first team playing multiple AP top 5 matchups on the road in the same season since 1996 Florida. How'd that work out for them? I got to go check and see. How did 96 Florida do? They're the first team playing multiple AP top 5 matchups on the road since 1996. It's a tough schedule for them. There's no doubt about it. All right. You want some Oklahoma? I'll give me a couple of Oklahoma stats. Oklahoma's so bad offensively. Listen to this. After playing Texas, they were bad before they played Texas. Now, after Oklahoma's offense has generated only 30, because they didn't generate one play of 20 plus yards against Texas. They've generated now 13 total plays of 20 plus yards on the season. Guys, it's 133rd in the FBS. They're 133rd in explosive offense. They were 130th before they played Texas in explosive play rate on offense. Only Kennesaw State has fewer explosive plays of 20 plus yards than the Oklahoma offense. Let that sink in, guys. That's how bad. I don't know if there's ever been an Oklahoma offense this bad. I don't know if it's ever happened. I mean, Miami and Ole Miss have put up 13 20 plus yard plays in a single game this season. Oklahoma's done 13 in the entire season. Oklahoma's gained 20 plus yards on just 3% of its offensive plays. That percentage currently ranks 3rd worst all Power 4 offenses over the last decade. It's the 3rd worst explosive play rate among Power 5 or 4 teams over the last decade, guys. It's that bad. It's horrible. I've never seen an offense for Oklahoma that bad. They got to do something. Mike Leach is turning over in his grave. It's crazy. It's wild.
Florida, 1996 Florida. That played a number 2 Tennessee team on the road and a number 2 Florida State team, was the national champion. That was the year that Texas beat Nebraska in the Big 12 championship to knock them out of the title game. So you got a rematch of Florida State that Florida won to win the national championship.
So Florida was just a badass that year.
That was Danny Werfel, Steve Spurrier coach,
Danny
Florida.
Werfel.
Danny Werfel is the quarterback, 96.
And Tennessee, was that Peyton Manning's Tennessee?
96?
96?
Believably.
Think. It might have been.
It was.
That was Peyton Manning's Tennessee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Thanks, Patrick, for that. We appreciate. That's why he's a real MVP. All right, we come back. We got NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk about the disaster and dumpster fire that is the Jets, Jets. We'll also talk about D'Amico Ryan's comment. D'Amico Ryan's a smart guy, and I think he is taking a shot at Josh Allen, and I think I know why he's taking that shot at Josh Allen, and we'll discuss it when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday on the Rodcast. That's when my man Patrick plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. So we appreciate him. We also appreciate him coming up with all the musically themed days of the week, but also coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. That's already posted for you, by the way, at the X account at the Horn ATX. Patrick, what is the topic you have for the people?
First
for the
of all,
big fat poll
any guesses of what the band name is for this band?
I know the song.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know the song too. I could
song.
not have told you the name of the band.
Oh man. No, I'm not gonna get it.
It's Ready for the World.
A very good song.
The name of the band is Ready for the World.
Ready for the World. That name sounds familiar too, actually.
I mean,
are they one hit wonder, or they have another jam?
I think they had some other ones that weren't number one. They must
have had some other jams.
They had some other jams, but yeah.
But Oh Sheila, yeah. Is that the name of the song? Actually?
Yes. Trying to.
I figured.
Yeah, trying to be a little Prince-ish there. Tell.
Yeah. No. Yeah, they all had like Jerry curls.
Yes, they did.
There was like
they
every last one of them had a Jerry curl. Not
Six
one,
of them. Six of them had Jerry curls.
All juicy. I mean, juicy Jerry curls too back in the day. Yeah, I think I do remember Ready for the World. So they had some other jams actually.
Yes,
you're right. They had some other jams, I think. But that one is the most popular. There's no question. But I thought they might have had a couple of them more.
Yeah, you can go.
I don't know.
You can jam out some Ready for the World later.
Ready for the World, right? Yeah. Well, I think that was definitely their peak.
That was it.
That was
like what?
Yeah. Oh Sheila, Ready for the
like
World.
3 or 4 year span where it was like, we're ready for the world, and then right downhill.
Oh no, yes, because they Love You Down. I wanna love you down. Yes, I knew it. I was like, that sounds familiar. Why do I know Ready for the World? Love You Down is actually my favorite Ready for the World jam. It is not Oh Sheila.
Okay.
Love You Down is my favorite. I love You Down. It's a fantastic song. So there you go. Not a one-hit wonder. Thank you, Patrick. I learn something new every day. I did not even know that was my favorite Ready for the World song. Now I know.
I'm glad.
Love You Down.
Glad we could go into it for that one. That was one of those ones where it's like, I know the song. I don't know if the blind spot, probably never heard of that band before. And then, but knew the song.
You're right. Love You. Oh Sheila was number one on like the R&B charts. I mean, it was their biggest hit. Love You Down was their second biggest hit though.
Yeah.
Because it was a number one R&B song on number one on the R&B charts too. All right, there you go. Nice. I learned something new. Love You Down is a good song. That's a jam. You can't play it on the morning because it's like really slow.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good hookup song back.
Yeah, Bring It Back music. Can I come back?
There's a good chance Rod B hooked up to Love You Down at one point. Like there's a good chance that it was one of my favorite jams back in the day. I used to love that song. All right, there you go. That's the purpose of Top of the Charts Tuesday, because it starts random conversation like that. Topic for the big fat poll of the day, also a great conversation starter. Give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day, Patrick.
Big fat poll of the day. Which Longhorn who has not led the team in receiving so far this season is most likely to do so? Wingo, Helm, Bond, and Moore have all already done it. So now we are down to the four that we have: Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, Salas Bolden, and Jaden Blue, and you're voting on them in that order. Matthew Golden has 49% of the votes, 27% for Jonte Cook, 18% for Salas Bolden, and 6% for Jaden Blue.
Oh yeah, I'm saying Matthew Golden too, but he does. I would say Matthew Golden. They don't hit him downfield a lot, and that's usually what helps you lead the team in receiving. You got to have a big explosive play of some kind.
Because that's
right. Even Gunnar Helm, he had the big kind of not Hail Mary, but the double pass. Down there. Because Texas doesn't give you enough targets to accumulate 10 receptions, whatever, 8-9 receptions, and then get to 100 yards or get to leading the team that way. You gotta have a chunk yard.
That is where Jaden Blue, I think, has it, because Jaden Blue has that ability.
He does have that ability.
And it's just, if he ever catches one of those wheel routes,
they haven't. I don't think they've completed one this season.
If he catches
one,
if
he catches one, you're right. But he's got, number one, you got to complete. Number one, his hands aren't necessarily that sure.
No.
So it could hit him in the hands and he could drop it. He's got a lot of drops too. So as I say, I don't know if I'd go with Blue, because I'm with you on the wheel route. Or he could break a screen route, screen pass, to the house for 60 yards, and then boom, right there. So it could be Jaden Blue. It seems right here the people voting though they have the least amount of faith in that because only 5% of the people voted believe Jaden Blue is going to be the next guy to lead you in receiving yards. You have had 4. My prediction was half the games you'd have a different leading receiver, and well, we've already had a different leading receiver in 4 of the 6 games. So yeah, we're getting there. Okay, there you go. Topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll talk some Texas, Georgia, of course, because we'll hear from Kirby Smart giving the Longhorns a lot of props. He's actually very complimentary of this Longhorn football team, as well he should be. They're the number 1 team in the country. We'll also hear from Sark. His Monday media availability was yesterday, and we have some audio courtesy of my man Patrick Davis. So we'll play next segment, and we'll also talk Texas, Georgia, as we hear from Steve Sarkisian, because most of that audio is him talking about their upcoming opponent. All right, we'll also get NFL news notes and nuggets here. We'll talk about the Bills beating the Jets last night and talk about what a dumpster fire the Jets are. And then we got to talk to D'Amico Ryans. Did he deliberately take take a shot? Did he do it deliberately? Was it intentional? Him take what some people are saying is a shot at Josh Allen. Now, he did not mention Josh Allen at all. All right, didn't mention him at all, but some people believe his latest comment talking about their upcoming opponent and the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, that actually may be a shot at Josh Allen. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about that too coming up. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB playoffs, the Mets tied the NLCS against the Dodgers with a 7-3 win yesterday. The Mets put up 5 runs in the second inning, including a grand slam for Mark Vientos to take a commanding lead. In the ALCS, the Yankees took Game 1 5-2 over the Guardians, with the Yankees scoring 2 runs off of wild pitches in the third inning. Game 2 is tonight, with Tanner Bibby pitching for Cleveland against Garrett Cole. And in the NFL, the Bills improved to 4-2 on the season with a 23-20 win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. The game was marred by penalties and poor kicking, with both teams committing 11 penalties and missing 2 kicks in the game. A 52-yard Hail Mary to Alan Lazard in the first half put the Jets back in the game. However, neither team could find the end zone in the second half. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those. The Jets, they've lost 3 in a row now, and they were competitive after firing their coach, Robert Saleh, which there are a lot of issues that people have with the Jets and the way they went about firing Robert Saleh, but you can make the argument that it was necessary for a lot of different reasons. But if they continue to spiral, all right, then I think obviously it was counterproductive. The whole point, I think, was to spark them and start kind of changing the course of this franchise and the trajectory of it. And that didn't happen last night, and this has been kind of a recurring theme with the Jets. The Jets have been competitive. They're not, even with all the dysfunction that they have, just like last night, they've been competitive. I got this stat that with all the issues they have, they still managed to have had 4 chances so far this season to lead a game-winning drive, trailing by less than 7 with 4 minutes or less to go in the last 3 weeks. So this is obviously they on a 3-game losing streak, and they're 0 for 4 in those opportunities. Turnover on downs, missed field goal, interception. As a matter of fact, we'll hear from Aaron Rodgers because apparently the last interception when they were trying to march down the field, he believes that there's somebody else who should shoulder the responsibility for the interception, not just him.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
That's kind of what can we just flick? Yeah, because for those who don't know, they had a chance. It was a 3rd and 16, I believe, in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left, and they're driving down. They got a chance to go down and try to take the lead, of course, and Aaron Rodgers throws a reception. And this is his explanation, I believe, when he's asked about it.
2 verticals, Allen's down the seam, Mike's down the red line. So I'm looking at Allen. He puts his hand up, 3 guys go with him. So I'm throwing a no look to the red line. And when I just peek my eyes back there, he's running a handbreaker. So it's got to be down the red line.
So were you throwing that split to come back to it?
No, I was throwing to the red line, but when I got to about here, I realized he was running in breaker, so I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is 2 guys vertical, 1 guy down the seam, 1 guy on the red line.
Here it is.
There you go. So Mike Williams wasn't on the red line. I guess he said Mike Williams adjusted his route, and he was throwing it to where Mike Williams was supposed to be. That's why it looked like such a terrible pass. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. No, I didn't do anything wrong. But what happened was.
Did he say he was trying to throw it no look too? Did he say
he said as soon as I saw there was 3 guys with my buddy Lazard, the guy that I brought to the guys I brought here. He did his job, put his hand up, 3 guys on him. What can I do? So I go over to this other guy that Jets brought in. Who knows him? And I looked over there, and so I go to throw it right. And as I was throwing, I decide, you know what? Let me peek because I don't trust this guy. As a professional, I know I have to check. So I peek over there. Dude's not even where he's supposed to be. So at the last second, I use all of my skill and talent and ability and all the stuff I've learned through years of doing this and shift my arm just back. And I get a throw over and probably still should have caught it, but
well done. That was a great breakdown of the psychoanalysis. It really was. I mean, that's exactly how I heard it too. That's exactly how I heard it. This bum over here. But my buddy Lazard, this girl who I brought with me because he has earned my trust and worthy of yours as well. No, you're right. It was so much smarmy, like just kind of for him too, because he's just he's just a smart arse. I mean, he's just every time he's up there, it's a very kind of sanctimonious. I'm the smart, very Tom Herman-esque in his, kind of smarmy. I'm the smartest guy in the room. Aura that he has about him. Like
I don't know if he's mentioned that he was a member of Mensa as much, but
okay, yes, but some Herman would have that at times. But that kind of, we call it the Mensa meathead thing. But no, that was Aaron Rodgers trying to explain the interception. And I always say, if you're a great leader, you just take the L. You just take the L.
Yeah.
Right? And when your team loses and you're at the quarterback position, quarterback gets all the girls and gets all the grief. You're the quarterback position and your team loses, you should just take the L. That's on me. And when you lose, you want a me guy. And when you win, you want a we guy who goes up there when you win and go, no, that was us. We were great. Our team is great. My teammates, we've been fantastic. The chemistry, and we've been, as a team, we've been working real hard, and everything should be we and us when you win. And then when you lose, take the L. Take it individually.
Yeah.
Say, no, it was on me. I literally threw the interception. It was on me. I should have played better. Like,
I mean,
played great, but no, I could have been better in certain places.
Really easily.
Yeah.
I didn't get the ball in the end zone in the second half. And Asley, I didn't get the ball in the end zone in the second half. We win that game.
Yep.
I mean, it's that pretty simple. It's because he doesn't go, I just kind of chunked a ball downfield on a Hail Mary, and we got a touchdown that way. I mean, I really didn't do a ton on that one. Just kind of threw it into 6 guys, and my guy came away with it. But I'll take credit for that one. That one was on me. That was a great throw. Put it right into that pile of 6 guys. No, and then and don't forget, really got bailed out that was a forward pass call on the play where his arm hits the helmet and the ball slips out of his hand, but it's going forward when it slips out of his hand, so they call it a forward pass instead of a fumble. I mean, if he pulls that back in at all, that becomes a fumble and no longer a forward pass, and the game's over there. So there's multiple things in that. And in reality, even if that goes incomplete and not interception, it's 4th and 16.
It's 4th and 16. Yeah. Like I said, it's still highly unrealistic that they're going to march down the field and convert that. But
again,
even if
and not march down the field, all
some of that anyway.
Yeah.
You probably should be getting some of that anyway. Now that I think about 3rd and 16. That was going for the gusto. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because you're at 4 down, you're thinking 4 down.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Punting it away.
Yeah, you don't have to chuck it downfield.
Yeah, you could have still. I mean, if that body was open, you could have got 9 or 10 yards.
And there was still enough time on the clock. It wasn't like there was 12 seconds left where you had to chunk it. There was plenty of time left on the clock. Yeah,
there's plenty of time. So now I'm wondering about the desperation of it. Like, why did you have to chunk it down there anyway? You could have. So anyway, but that's him not taking ownership, not taking accountability for the mistakes that or at least his part in that interception, in that play. You still threw it. you're the quarterback. Ultimately, it comes back to you, and it should. But the Jets' offense is still pretty much a disaster. And it has been. They were better in that game. I will say they were better in that game with the new play caller. You did have 200-yard receivers. Most of Alan Lazard's, yardage came on that Hail Mary, but still, that's big. And Breece Hall had over 100 yards, so he had a breakout game too. Looked like the Jets should have won the game. That's why I gave the stat earlier.
Yep.
They've been in position to win these games, and there's just something they, as an organization, I think they were hoping that Aaron Rodgers would come in here. We would have a defense that would keep us close, and he would come in and he would, with his clutch gene and with his presence, he would teach us how to win in those moments.
Yeah,
as a team,
we
would learn from him in those moments.
We saw Wilson once again look really, really good. And wide receiver Wilson looks really good. You've got a great wide receiver there. Breece Hall, he's stepping up in that place. Like, you have some really good weapons on that team. So yeah, you think putting in the right quarterback to utilize those weapons, you'll be able to go. And they still did it, but couldn't finish drives. And then in today's NFL too, if you're trying to get, I don't know why you're pulling up an inconsistent kicker like Zerline still. I feel like you got to go take a chance on somebody else. Like when you see these guys like that are killing it right now.
Yeah. The guys, and they're getting them from everywhere too. They're getting them from they're coming from other leagues.
Yes.
They're coming from overseas. They're coming from all over the place.
Hey, man, I'm calling up Austin FC and be like, hey man, how much you playing right now?
Yep.
You getting 4 minutes a game? Come on over. You should go try out.
Go find a good kicker. I'm with you. You can go find a good kicker.
That guy hit the pole twice.
Yeah, and there's so many good kickers in college. Nobody's drafting kickers. You can go get good kickers out of. Once I'm talking about, obviously, the acquisition cycles. But there's no excuse for you not to have a good kicker or not to have a list of them. Because what do you think all the college kickers are doing? Just go find decent kickers. Hell, Texas has produced 3 kickers in the league or 2 kickers in the league now? Might be 3 actually.
Tucker and Dicker. I guess I thought there was another old school one, but they might be done with that. But my point is, there's no excuse not to have a good kicker. No, that's what. Remember,
great kickers.
The Cowboys moved on from Zerline in 2021 because they said,
"Look at the Cowboys." Yeah,
but they were like, "You were too inconsistent," and now they have a kicker. I think you can't keep a guy like that, especially when you're
2 of them too.
And both of them were off the upright.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I think at a certain point you have to say, if we're going to be in a lot of close games, pretty important to have a sure thing kicker, not a guy who, because the whole thing with Zerline was he's got a hell of a leg on him, but he's just inconsistent.
Yeah, and that's
you need consistency
when your offense is struggling. Yeah, and you're a defensive oriented team. That's really what the Jets are. Yeah, you got to have a kicker that can be reliable. And they don't really have that either. So the Jets continue to struggle. I think the Jets are in trouble. I think they're going to spiral. I don't see him. Maybe they'll turn things around, but right now I don't see it. That offense, even though it did improve, I still think they're going to struggle to close and finish games against good teams, which is basically what happened last night. That was an ugly game. Jets should have won it, but the Bills come away with it. I think the Bills now have a stranglehold on that division for the most part. There's nobody to even contest them in that division right now. All right, let's get to this DeMeco Ryans story, and then we'll jump into some Texas Georgia conversation because we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian on the other side. So yesterday, DeMeco Ryans is addressing the media. He's talking about their upcoming opponent, the Green Bay Packers. And here's the quote that people are looking at. He said, and I got it from multiple sources because I thought maybe it was a fake quote, but it's not. He says, Jordan Love will be the best quarterback we've seen this year. Boom. They just faced Josh Allen a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So what did he say? I got to go figure out and say what he said about Josh Allen before their game. Right? Is he saying that because Josh Allen played so badly against the Texans because it was historically bad performance? Or before that game, did he say, because now people are taking this as him taking a little shot at Josh Allen that, you ain't the best quarterback we played. This young man is. And that maybe it's him playing like some 3D chess where he wants his quarterback, CJ Stroud, to win the MVP. And right now, one of the front runners for the MVP is Josh Allen, and he needs to hurt Josh Allen's campaign, which he already did, by the way, because he came with the defensive game plan that made Josh Allen essentially inept versus the Texans a couple of weeks ago.
He was 9 for 30 for 131 yards and a touchdown against the Texans.
No, it was historically, it was like the worst.
9 for 30.
It was like one of the worst games
good.
in the last 30 years. Yeah, it was bad. Like, it was terrible. But is it a shot? What do you think? You're a Texans fan. Is he taking a shot, or is D'Amico just unaware that we're digging deep into it?
I think he knew. I think basically he's saying, when we look at the game film, I'm much more worried about what Jordan Love can do to us than what Josh Allen can do to us, because we know what Josh Allen can do, but I'm not necessarily worried about it. We know how to stop him, so we just have to stop him. But he doesn't have the wide receivers. I'm not as worried. Whereas Jordan Love, we see him tearing teams apart right now. Yeah. So we think this guy, we really have to be on everything we're doing because he'll be able to get us. I think it could just be that, where it was more respect for Jordan Love of like, when we're making our defensive game plan, it's harder than Josh Allen's game plan.
Could be. Yeah.
But I like it if he's trying to do the MVP, but my guess would be it's much more of, knowing how coaches are, I've already forgotten about the Bills game. I'm focused completely on this. And I just walked into a room and we walked out of it trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do to be able to stop.
6 inches in front of your face. I just saw this dude on film and he's amazing. So I already forgot about the game plan we came up with for Josh Allen, who was the front runner for the MVP at the time. No, I think that's probably right. I'm with you though. I hope it's him being petty. I hope he is just being really petty. And he's in a get to this. So we're talking Texans. Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes, they were on NFL Live, and both of them basically got into this kind of love fest about CJ Stroud. They were talking about the MVP. And then they said CJ Stroud should be one of the names that is discussed when you're talking about MVP this season. Here is Dan Orlovsky and Mina.
Any conversation that has to be around the MVP 100% has to include CJ Stroud. I'm telling everybody what he is doing is overcoming and covering up a lot of deficiencies right now in their offensive unit. I do think, although they scored 41, Nico was missed. Yeah. Yes. But the positive is Stephon Diggs very much so stepped forward and made some big plays for this offense. I'm not saying he stepped into that one role, but if he has to play the one role for a couple weeks, I think that you have a lot of confidence in doing that.
I just look so forward every week, Monday, to watching CJ Stroud on
tape. Look at this throw.
More than any other quarterback. Because I'm just saying, you do not appreciate the level of difficulty you described until you see it on tape, until you see the tightness of windows, the pressure that he is under. He is making more special passes than any quarterback in the NFL this year.
I'm going to tell you what you don't understand the difficulty of.
Degree of difficulty passes they're giving him props for. And if you're looking at it from that perspective, he may be doing better than any quarterback in the league from an MVP campaign perspective. And that stat that I was looking up. So the Josh Allen game that he had the 30% completion percentage was the lowest for any quarterback with at least 30 passing attempts in the last 30 years. So it's a 30-30 stat. That's how I remember. I knew it was 30-30-30. All right. He had 30 passing attempts. All right. That's the 30% completion percentage, which is the lowest for any quarterback with at least 30 attempts in the last 30 years. That's how you remember the stat. That's how bad it was. So
yes,
maybe he's thinking about that. He's like, you know what? That guy's not as good as I thought. Jordan Love's going to be better. The system that Jordan Love is playing in too is a better system. It's the Shanahan system, Matt LaFleur system. So it's a better system. And they got better skill talent, like Patrick mentions too. All right, so let's get to some Steve Sarkisian audio on the other side. He had his Monday media availability talking about the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll play some audio from Sark as we preview the Longhorns' next upcoming opponent, top 5 matchup. It is the biggest game in college football of the weekend, and we'll be talking about it all week long right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain. Hear from Steve Sarkisian. He actually spoke to the media yesterday for his Monday media availability before their big game against Georgia, a top 5 matchup. Sark started off talking about Georgia as part of his opening statement. Here's what Sark had to say about the Bulldogs.
And we've got a heck of a challenge this weekend against Georgia. Very good football team. I have a ton of respect for Coach Smart and the job that he's done at Georgia. They've kind of somewhat been the standard of college football here now for the last 6-7 years. I think they've been to 7 SEC championship games. They won 3 in a row, back-to-back national champs, competed for a third. And so, they've recruited really well. They've got great schemes. They're really well coached. I know the moment won't be too big for them coming into DKR. But with that being said, we need DKR to be rocking. We need to make sure that we've got a home field advantage, and one that our fans have done a tremendous job all year. And we're looking forward for that with another night game. A lot happening in Austin this weekend with F1, with College Game Day being here. And I think that, to the point I made to the players, we need to continue to stay enamored with us and what we need to do and focus on the task at hand, and not get caught up in what you guys are talking about or anybody else is talking about. It's not what other people say. It's actually about what we do. It's about our action, and we can control what we can control. And that was today's walkthrough and implementation of the game plan, and then focus on it one day at a time from there. So great challenge, great opportunity. I know our players are looking forward to it. Like I said, against a very good opponent.
All right. Let's start talking about how big of a weekend it's going to be. We'll get to some of that discussion too, because it's a big recruiting weekend for Texas. But let's hear from Sark talking about the messaging. I think he got into it a little bit there, being enamored with us. What is the messaging to the team though before this top 5 matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs?
The message didn't change at all today. And again, like I said, I believe in consistency and messaging. When we start conference play, the first thing I talk about, this is an SEC championship game. Every week we play this league. We have no divisions. There's a lot of teams, and any blemish on your record could potentially knock you out of that championship game. And so we think of every game that way, whether it's Mississippi State, Oklahoma, now Georgia. The messaging stays very consistent on a lot of the things that we talk about, because I think the players appreciate consistency. If they know that I'm consistent with what I'm doing, then and what I'm asking them to be consistent of what they do week in and week out, it's a little easier if I'm embodying the same things. The appeal is this is always, you love those games that, if you want to call them the measuring stick or kind of a barometer for where you at what juncture of the season, against the really good team, and a team that has been in national championship games, conference championship games, has won games at a really high level, and a head coach who's done it at the highest level. That's the fun part. It's like, okay, let's see if what we do on a regular basis is good enough, and that's what we can find out.
All right, then you'll start talking about the messaging to the team before the Georgia game. He also said earlier in the audio we played prior to that one was that it was going to be a big weekend in Austin. You got F1 in town, and of course, Georgia coming to town is going to be a big game. It's also going to be a huge recruiting weekend. Jerry Hamilton over at On Texas Football, CJ Vogel over at On Texas Football have talked about how this is going to be the biggest recruiting weekend in years for the University of Texas. I've talked about how one of the keys, the part of the secret sauce to what Georgia has become and how this dynastic run they're on is the Atlanta metro area. There's not a metro area in the country that produces NFL talent over the last 5 years at the rate that Atlanta does. DFW is second, but there is a considerable difference between what Atlanta's doing and what DFW is. And DFW is producing NFL players at an elite rate, but right now Atlanta's on a whole nother level. And that's a big part of what has made Georgia this juggernaut. And Texas, with the hiring of Kenny Baker, with the addition of Tashard Choice and his roots there in Atlanta from his time there at Georgia Tech, they have been trying to get more of a presence, more market share of that Atlanta metro area. This game is huge in being able to sway some of the public perception in that region, in that area, about Texas and them wanting to start to pluck more players, big time players. They want to go big. They want to go big game hunting in Atlanta. To do that, you got to knock off Georgia. And so here, start talking about that big recruiting weekend that's coming up for the Longhorns when they face the Georgia Bulldogs.
Every season you go through and, we invite a ton of recruits to games and different things, but every year naturally you have those 1 or 2 games that recruits really want to come to. And they kind of circle it even in the summertime. And this was one of those games. And so I think we're fortunate that we got a night draw, that it's a night game, and that allows a lot of those kids that play Friday nights to drive in or fly in on Saturday and be here for the ball game at night. And obviously a great atmosphere in DKR. And I'm sure we'll have the smoke and the light show and the drones and all the stuff CDC's got planned, for everybody. And I think the kids really appreciate that, to know that Longhorn Nation supports their team, but also see a really high level of football and see us compete against what like I said, what has been the standard of college football here now for about half a decade or so. And so great opportunity to showcase what our program's about, great opportunity to showcase what our fan base is about. But also during the day, great opportunity to showcase what the University of Texas is about and what the city of Austin has to offer.
Yeah, man, Jerry Hamilton says over 40 combined 5-star and 4-star prospects scheduled to be in Austin for the Texas-Georgia game. For that SEC showdown. There's a lot of blue chip prospects that want to be at that game. And I don't even know who they're there for. I think some of them are going to be there for Georgia, Texas. I think you can end up swaying some from one to the other, depending on how that game goes. Big one for Texas.
Yeah. By the way, how many people are getting turned down for a sideline right now that are like, I could always get sidelined?
Yeah, you ain't. Yeah, that's a great point. I agree with that too. Because this is, I'm sure the big time boosters and donors, the ones who got the real influence, maybe they can get down there, but not even just I think you got to be a high level booster or donor to get in.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just be a former player. You got to be, a national award winner, right now in the NFL, still playing as a good player. I don't even think just like regular, just Letterman can get out there on that sideline. Not right now.
No,
not
Demo will probably be there because it's his bye week, but
that's why I say you got some people that if you're playing in the league right now, you
go.
got a good chance because they want to showcase, hey, guys in the league coming back, that kind of thing. But you just like a former player, like, nah, they might give it, they might not hit you back.
Yeah,
they might have to.
Hey man, we got
shoulder, man.
We got some tickets in the upper deck available.
Right, we'll hook you up in the get you a T Association club. We'll hook you up in there.
Exactly.
This is big time. And then you'll have just like random people like ESPN. They'll have people like on the sideline and stuff like that, or whoever has a big game. It'll obviously it'll be a network national game, and so there'll be whoever the network who has the game. They'll have people on the sideline just hanging out big time. Like some random celebrity will be like just down here, like, oh, how'd the guy from this network TV show get down? He's like, he was in town.
Has game day said who their guest picker is this week?
I don't. That's a great question. I do not know. I have no idea.
I don't know when they announced that. It's only Tuesday. They may announce it later in the week.
But I would now wonder who's going to be though. I mean, can't just go Matthew McConaughey again.
No, because
Matthew. He'll be there anyway, so they ain't got to make him a guest picker because he'll be there just to do stuff.
Yeah,
he likes to be around.
No, but they've done didn't the Undertaker do it one time?
I know.
And then they had a golfer do it. One of our golfers do it.
Yeah. I guess you can ask Scotty Scheffler what he's doing, see if he can come do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of Longhorns who are. I mean, has KD done it?
No, but the preseason started, so it's probably not the best time for that.
So he can't do it either. Yeah, so he's doing. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of like Longhorns who are thriving. What's the guy from Top Gun? Has he been on there yet? Isn't he a Texas guy? I don't know if he went there. He's a fan. The guy that. I forget his name. He just had the movie with Sydney Sweeney. I don't even know what the rom-com is.
Oh yeah. No, I know who you're talking about.
Ridiculously good-looking dude.
Yeah, the guy from Twisters.
Yes. He is a big Texas fan. I'm not sure if he went to Texas, but I know he's a big fan of Texas. I don't know if he went there.
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell. Thank you very much, Glenn Powell. Maybe he could do it. He got a movie coming out every 2-3 months to promote, right? Go on there and talk about. He could do it.
He's from Austin, So
he's from. So did he go to Texas, or he just from Austin and loves Texas? It doesn't matter. I mean, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can just have him on there.
he went to my high school. Who knew? He went to Westwood High School, and did go to Texas. Yeah.
Okay, good. Then. I mean, you don't have to have gone.
I just missed him. Apparently, he came in right after I'd left. He came in like a year after I left. So.
Really?
Me and him could have been.
So
best buds. I didn't know that.
So you don't know somebody that knows him, that kind of thing. Degrees of separation. You don't know somebody that knows the dude.
But I never realized he went to. I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew he was from Austin. I know what school he went to. And I figured he went to Texas because he just represents Texas all the time. Like anytime they have like a interview with him, casually talking about like his movies and stuff, I would say half the time he's got some Texas gear on. Like he's like a very proud. Texas is good too. So if his Texas was bad and he was, Hollywood star, he probably wouldn't represent as much. But he does represent the burn orange. So maybe let that dude do it.
Yeah, maybe he'll be the guy.
You're welcome. All right, let's get to. Let's talk about the defense for Kirby Smart. I in my rant earlier, I got into at least a couple of concepts I think Texas could use that would be successful versus Kirby Smart's defense. But that is his calling card. His defense is always legit. It'll be the biggest and the best test that Texas has faced so far this season defensively. Here is Sark talking about how you vanquish, how you try to conquer that Kirby Smart defense.
Well, I think they've got a really good scheme. You got Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann all on the same defensive staff. Those are probably three of the top defensive minds in college football. And then, and they're sound in what they do. They recruit really good players. They're big and physical up front. They've got great length in the secondary. They always have very smart, heady safeties to communicate, what they're trying to do. Third down, they give you a ton of exotic pressures and different fronts. And with all of that, they end up playing a lot of almost two-man coverage. So now you're not only having to beat one guy to get open, you have to beat two. But that's the scheming part, and they do a heck of a job with that. And so I think it's a combination of they got a great scheme and a great staff to go along with, really talented players that play hard, and they're long and physical. And so those two things combined can make it difficult. I think on the flip side for us, it's, like I touched on earlier, you're always just trying to find somewhere where you can maybe exploit something that's maybe not a strength, maybe, but I don't really have to have too many weaknesses that way. And so just try to do our best to find some plays that can get us another first down and maybe get the ball in the end zone.
All right, there you go. I got a couple of ideas, but I'm sure Sark's got some better ones. Let's hear from Sark talking about the other elite element of this team, the defense. That's the signature of a Kirby Smart coach team, but they also have a first-round talent at quarterback, and they hadn't had that during their dynastic run. Here's Sark talking about Carson Beck, who may be the top quarterback taken off the board in this upcoming draft.
Carson Beck, I know really well. He was committed to us at Alabama and then ultimately decommitted and went to Georgia. He's a great young man, military background from his father. They, he's a big, strong kid, can make all the throws. He's got a real presence in the pocket, can make all the throws. And I think they have a scheme that fits him. They believe in the play action pass. They believe in the double moves. They're going to take plenty of shots down the field. They utilize the tight end. They utilize the running backs. And so there's nothing from a throw game that he really can't do. And he's played enough football now it's kind of hard to confuse guys when they've played that much football. And so that's going to be our challenge, right? How do we disrupt him in the pocket? How can we, create a little bit of hesitation in him from a coverage standpoint? And then we're going to have to play really well, in tight coverage because he's going to make these throws and they have elite speed on the perimeter. They're built very similar like us, whether it's, Arian Smith or Levet. I mean, those guys can all go. And so now you have to guard them and they have an NFL quarterback throwing it to them.
That is indeed the case. So the best quarterback Texas has played and probably will play all season long on Carson Beck. And they do have the weapons on that side. The offense, in my opinion, is not prolific or elite, but the weapons they have are high-level, dynamic talents. at those positions. I just don't know necessarily if they have played their best game offensively, which I guess is scary because they can play that game versus Texas. That would be a tall task versus the best defense in the country. So we'll get back to talking Texas versus Georgia. We come back, we have off of the record, and I do believe based on just some just kind of crackpot investigation here, we may have already figured out who's going to be the guest picker for game day. I mean, I think we stumbled upon
likely.
it.
Seems likely. We'll research in the break, see if they've already announced it, or maybe I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
they haven't announced it. It seems like it's going to be this dude. All right. So we'll talk about that when we come back a little bit too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some off of the record conversation here. All right, let's get into this first story because Kirby Smart. We talked about this yesterday a little bit, and I think we knew this was going to happen. We talked about there was a situation on the sideline during the Georgia Mississippi State game where Kirby Smart ended up basically kind of shoving a player, and it didn't seem like he did intentionally because he didn't confront the player. He just shoved him, and it looked like he was yelling at a ref. Indeed, he was actually yelling at one of his coaches, Shu. I think Glenn Schumann, who's one of their coaches on the defensive staff. He said he was yelling at him. He didn't see the young man, is what he claims in the post game, right after the game. But on the video, it is clear he shoves the young man out of the way.
I will say
on his way to get to somebody else.
I saw another angle of it, and it's very clear he's yelling at his own coach.
Yeah.
So the other one kind of looked like he was yelling at a ref, but when you see this other angle, he is beelining it right to his coach, but he didn't shove the player.
Yeah, and there was an official right there. There were two officials there, but one official was literally right there, and almost the player was almost shoved into the official.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, here is the audio. Kirby Smart cleared it up because Kirby Smart claimed right after the game he did not remember that. He's like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. I don't remember that, which does now track with some of the video footage that he didn't confront the young man. That was nothing. Like, he literally went right through the young man. It was like the guy was just in his way. The young man was in his way, and he was going toward the coach. Here is Kirby Smart basically clarifying exactly what happened after he went back and watched it.
Yeah.
Even Van Buren himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I have. And I'm glad you brought that up, because after you guys said that in the press conference, I went back and watched it, and didn't even realize that I had run into him. But I reached out to Levy that night and talked to him, and he said the kid was great. And then yesterday I talked to Mike and told him, I had no intentions or ill will towards him at all. It was, if you've ever been on the sideline in a game, it's pandemonium. It's really pandemonium when you're trying to change personnel and you only got 3 to 4 seconds to do it. And we were bad off in a bad personnel grouping against empty that we actually had messed up the week before. And so I was trying to get to Schumann to get that changed. But I reached out to the kid. He was great. He's a really good player. He's going to be a good player in this league, and he played better as the game went on against us.
Did you catch the tail end of that there? He was yelling. He was emphatically yelling and screaming because they were in the wrong personnel grouping versus empty.
Mm-hmm.
He was upset because he said they had previously screwed it up the week before.
Yeah.
Guys, they've been screwing up empty for like the last 3 weeks. I'm telling you. And he's upset. That's why he's upset. He's like, damn it, we can't get it right. We got to get this right. And they're not always getting it right. I'm telling you, guys. Empty formation.
So something that some people noticed in that from Kirby, where he does say, I apologized to the coach.
Yeah, that was classic.
I apologize to the player. So people did notice the word sorry never came out of his mouth. He never once just said, hey, I'm sorry for doing that. He said, I apologize to those guys. No, he said, I apologize to them. But he never just, and it's a piece where you just go, that's really easy. And I don't know if my program was lacking a huge amount of accountability in the world, maybe I would make a point to apologize and say I have to be better and try and lead by example, and maybe try and be like, hey, we got to be more careful about these things because we need to be examples on and off the field, and hey, let's stop doing terrible things off the field. I maybe would try a little bit more to do that if it was me and my program was going through that right now.
It's fair.
But that was the point is where we saw Sark talk about Quinn Ewers after the game and saying it's a very big thing for us for accountability. And Sark talking about his own personal demons and everything he's been through and accountability. Yeah. And then on this side, he goes, no, I apologize. Never once said he was wrong. Never once. He said, I didn't know what I was doing. I apologize to the player. I apologize to the coach. They're good guys. But he never said he did anything wrong. And he never said he was sorry. Just interesting. Just an interesting note.
It is. I mean, you can psychoanalyze that.
I think that he does. I think he did apologize. I think, he knew he's like, crap, I shouldn't have done that. But sometimes
it's a valid point. I agree with that. That's a very, considering what we've watched this program go through the last year and a half or 2 years. All right. And the lack of accountability, I'm with you. That's a good point. I'm glad he at least reached out and apologized to him when he went back. Well, I figured that would be the case anyway. But okay, so but that empty formation comment at the end there, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
When everybody saw it, when they saw it against Bama, that means Auburn broke it out because he said last week we didn't get it right. Now, maybe he was talking about 2 weeks ago. He just said last week, but I think I'll go back and watch it for you guys. I'll go back and check it out and I'll figure it out. But I remember watching that Bama game and tracking it there, but we'll see if it's something that Auburn was able to do. Auburn threw for like 200 yards. Auburn didn't throw for a lot of yards. Bama threw for over 300, and Mississippi State threw for over 300. So those are the games I really looked at because those are the games where they had the most success. If I'm looking at the Georgia defense and how to expose the Georgia defense, those are the two games you look at because those teams had the most success exposing that Georgia defense. All right, good stuff there. Real quick, I do think, and shout out to my man CB at Chris GB 002,000. Who did send, I said there are 2 potential guest pickers that I think could be representing Texas since game day is going to be in town. I brought up KD. You, because you were the basketball head on the show, you brought up that the preseason started for the NBA. But CB did point out that KD linked up with Russell Westbrook and John Wall at the Colorado game.
Yeah.
Last weekend. So I don't know, maybe with the private jet access, we can make it work with the schedule. I don't know. But he also pointed out Glenn Powell says he's going back to UT to finish his degree. And Glenn Powell was my other recommendation. I think at times like that dude. And my man Patrick found some information about now. We believe it definitely will be Glenn Powell.
We think it'll be Glenn Powell, but I will say he did do it in 2022.
He already did it.
He already did it, so it may not be him. It could be. They could bring him back. They could do it again.
No, it's too soon.
But
it's 2 years
so
later.
2019, it was Matthew McConaughey. 2022, it was Glenn Powell. 2022, again, it was Jordan Spieth. So Spieth, Powell, and McConaughey have all done it recently. So it'll probably not be them. Glenn Powell, though, is doing a show called Chad Powers, which is kind of based on the Eli Manning sketch, but a guy going back and pretending to be a different quarterback. And they just filmed something during the Georgia game last weekend. So it would make great sense to have him, but he did it a couple years ago.
Omaha Productions, too. It's
and ESPN. Thing. So it makes very much sense that he would do it, but he probably won't.
He's not going to
They've thrown out some other names. Another actor that they've thrown out there is John Hamm. He's another UT guy.
He's not going to come back because his history at UT is, it's kind of shady. Like he made some bad decisions when he was here.
Yeah.
And I think he wants the world to forget that. The last thing he wants is people looking up his time at Texas. He don't want it. You don't want to look it up either. All right. That's the last thing he wants. So he does not, that's why he doesn't really associate with Texas like that. Because he wants people going to go, he was at Texas. What year was that? What frat was he with? He don't want that.
Yeah.
And you don't really want either, but we all deserve second chances.
Yes. By the way, shout out to CB. Happy belated birthday, CB. Thanks
hey,
forgot to give you one yesterday, CB. So happy belated birthday.
I forgot that too. I think we did it on the live stream, but I forgot to give you a personal shout out to you. So happy belated birthday to my man CB at Chris GB002000. Everybody knows about my man CB. All right, we come back. We'll get into last hour of the show. We'll talk about some NFL news. We'll talk about the Cowboys a little bit. We'll hear from Jerry Jones. We'll hear from Dak Prescott. We'll also talk a little bit more about the Houston Texans. They got a big game coming up versus the Green Bay Packers. Did D'Amico Ryans mean to take a shot at Josh Allen? We'll also dive into Rod's rant. I'm already starting to study the Texas-Georgia matchup. I think I found a vulnerability on that Georgia defense, and I think Sark can pick at it. We'll talk about it coming up next right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Tom Mahorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard's charts on this day in history. So we appreciate all of his efforts on all our musically themed days of the week, but especially on the top of the charts Tuesday. He also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day. Which Longhorn who has not led the team in receiving so far this season is most likely to do so? Your four options are Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook, Silas Bolden, and Jaden Blue. We know Ryan Wingo, Gunnar Helm, Isaiah Bond, and DeAndre Moore have already done it. So Matthew Golden is leading the way with 52% of the vote, 24% for Jonte Cook, 19% for Silas Bolden, and 5% for Jaden Blue.
Yeah, I think Matthew Golden is probably the pick for me too. I think it'll be Matthew Golden, most likely. But it could still be, Jaden Blue could break a big one for 60 yards and then, get to the top of that leaderboard, if you will, for receiving yards in a game. Or Silas Bolden, they've tried their best to try to manufacture him touches and to try to scheme him open. They had him in the backfield versus Oklahoma on one play. It just hasn't really materialized. It just hasn't happen, hasn't organically been able to materialize on the field. So I do think that he will have a breakout game this season on offense. It's just right now it's a struggle for them to try to get him the football in certain situations.
But I mean, it feels like whoever is going to lead is going to be because of a big play, which is why Golden, he's probably going to have the most touches in a lot of these games. But he isn't necessarily the big play guy.
No, they don't go deep with him. He has some intermediate routes. I think he had a 20-something yarder in the Oklahoma game, like a 23-yarder or something like that. But they don't throw bombs to Matthew.
No, and so
I think we've seen like one or two maybe this season.
And so normally for Texas, for these 100-yard receivers and the guys getting over 100, it's because one of them is 50 or 50, 60-yard play. Yeah, and then from that point on, then they have to have like two more catches and they lead the team in receiving. So that's where I think it's, where Golden takes a little bit of a shot of it is all of those other guys seem like more big play threats than Golden does so far this season, but he's also definitely going to get the most chances.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and with it's Silas Bolden. I think for Silas Bolden, like I said, I do think I think the coaches now, after that play he had versus Oklahoma, the culture play, the iconic play in that game, I do think coaches, they're going to try even harder now.
Yeah.
To get him a breakout game, to scheme him open, to give him opportunities, because he's earned it.
Yes.
I'm actually, I believe it too. He's earned that. So yeah, I think Silas Bolden's got a good chance. He's got a better chance. I know people are here on Jonte Cook, but I feel like Jonte Cook is, ever since that big drop.
Yeah,
I feel like he is, and I'm sure maybe he's playing the same amount, but I just feel like I don't see him making any impact plays on the field much at all. And I don't even see impact targets really.
No, and two, I felt like him and Arch seemed to do more, even though, I mean, even though it hasn't necessarily been, he wasn't dominating with Arch in there either, but that was the big play, I believe, was an Arch play too.
Yeah,
the big drop was when Arch was in there.
Yep.
So it feels like he's kind of more in that group. So, I think that would be one where they would have to try and get that connection with him and Quinn to make it work. But again, the question is with Isaiah Bond, we know Sark has said that he's progressing way better than they thought he was going to be. So he's, they're optimistic he's going to play, but even if he does, he may play less snaps. And so that's where, who do you put in to replace that Isaiah Bond? And is that Silas Bolden? Is that Jonte Cook? Because Matthew Golden's already got his spot. So who are you going to put into those plays in that Isaiah Bond role? Because that person now jumps up a peg in the who may lead in the next game.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. Like I said, right now I'm leaning toward Golden, but yeah, Golden's gonna struggle to get the big play downfield to really put him over the top in terms of receiving yards. That's why Bolden has a better chance, and Cook may have a better chance, but I don't see Cook making many plays at all and not getting many targets, Silas Bowden, at least you know the coaches are trying to get him the football.
Yeah.
They're going out of their way to get him the football. And if Bond doesn't play, maybe that means that they'll try to find some way to get Bowden out there more. But Wingo, I mean, if Bond's not out there, Wingo needs to play more and get more targets and touches.
Yeah. I think you will too. I think they don't want
to
leave Ryan Wingo out there so much more early in the season, but we're not early in the season anymore.
Nah, man, you're halfway through the season now.
So this is where you'd start stepping him up anyway. As we talked about at the beginning of the season, that Wingo's one of those guys that you could see by the end of the season having a more and more increased role and being really important by the end of the season. This is about where you'd start to slide him into, maybe doubling his snaps, or at least
I could see him being your best receiver by the end of the season.
That's what I'm saying. But if you have to do that, you just have to start getting him into more and more games, because getting in that game shape of being able to run play after play after play and getting downfield and getting your wind back and not losing that step, you just have to get more in line with that at game speed, because as much as you want to practice or anything else, nothing's quite like game speed.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's averaging 25 yards per touch.
Yeah.
23 yards basically per reception, 22.7. And I think he's like at 40 yards per rush on the 2 in and rounds he's got. He's just a big play waiting to happen. All right. So we'll get to some Texas football conversation, especially when we get into Rod's rant. I did see this story. I don't know what's going on. Jerry Jones is wilding out. I've been trying to find the audio because I went over to 105.3 The Fan, and I know the interview. I got the interview. It's like 20 something minutes. So I don't know when Jerry goes off. I'll try to find the moment he goes off. But he basically threatens the host on 105.3 The Fan. Clarence Hill Jr. says this was the quote that he tweeted out there. He says, Jerry Jones to the morning show host on 105.3 The Fan. This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job. I'll get somebody else to ask these questions. I'm not kidding. Yeah. Essentially implied as a threat, like, does Jerry Jones own the radio station? Maybe he is that powerful. I don't know if he could got the guys fired or anything like that, but he was not happy. All right. So like I said, I am efforting the audio. I'll try to get it to Patrick, but I got the interview. Yeah. I got the interview right here.
Nice.
I gotta see if I can listen to it.
Before we even get to Horn headlines, do you want some breaking news, Ron?
Give it to me. I love breaking news.
Got a breaking news sounder. Devontae Adams has been traded.
Ooh. Oh no.
Where do you
say it ain't so?
Oh,
it isn't really to that team, so we know. Is it really this?
Did somebody get mad at a wide receiver for running a wrong route last night?
Yes, he did.
Did someone get mad
earlier
about their? Yeah. Well, he's got his new best buddy back, Devontae Adams, to the Jets.
Wow. So Aaron Rodgers is running the show. At least we know he's running the show now.
And I mean, now, at least we know. For what they gave up, it doesn't seem that bad.
It wasn't. Remember, it was reasonable anyway. It was only a second round pick they were asking
conditional for. Third rounder that can become a second rounder.
Yeah, so it was reasonable from the jump. Man, I was like, oh, that's a reasonable ask. I think we all basically came to the conclusion that if he goes to the Jets, that it's Aaron. It is once again showing how much control and influence Aaron Rodgers has over that organization. And yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some of the text line can prove me wrong. This might be the most unlikable underdogs in history.
Who, the Jets?
The Jets. This underdog team with Woody Johnson as the owner, Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, and now you get it. You bring in another Aaron Rodgers guy, Devontae Adams, who's demanded a trade or asked for a trade twice now in his career.
I mean, I would say the wide receiving core is pretty nice now, though.
You
got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. And you got Breece Hall in the backfield. The offense looks pretty damn impressive.
On paper.
We'll see. Can they turn it around?
On
That's
paper,
the question.
It looks impressive.
On paper.
It looked pretty impressive on paper before the season.
That is true. It did. Yeah. But now it looks even better. Lazard's now your third receiver.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson.
That big Mike Williams signing. Get rid of him.
That guy's gone. Man, can we play the audio of Aaron Rodgers when he was asked about his interception he threw at the end of the game with 2 minutes left on a 3rd and 16, and people thought, oh, just a bad throw by Aaron Rodgers. He didn't want people to think that it was just a bad throw by Aaron Rodgers. So here's Aaron Rodgers mansplaining what happened on that last play.
Two verticals, Allen's down the seam, Mike's down the red line. So I'm looking at Allen. He puts his hand up. Three guys go with him. So I'm throwing a no look to the red line. And when I just peek my eyes back there, he's running an inbreaker. So it's got to be down the red line.
So were you throwing that split to come back to it?
No, I was throwing to the red line, but when I got to about here, I realized he was running an inbreaker, so I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is two guys vertical, one guy down the seam, one guy on the red line.
So I didn't screw it up, just so you know. That wasn't me. The error wasn't on me. It was on somebody else. And Aaron Rodgers is old and vet enough. Now he should know you take the L. Whoever fault it is at that point, you just take the L and be like, yeah, you know what? I got to play better as a leader. I got to be better. I got to make better decisions there. And then when you win games, then you be the we guy and say, hey, man, we won that game. We played really well. We came together as a team. We fought hard. We showed grit, whatever. We, when you win, me, when you lose. And he is not that guy.
We this is a guy we brought in because, he'd had some injuries, but he's a really good player. We brought him in to help this offense. But, you miss one play, we get Devontae Adams. You're now number 4 on the depth chart. Have fun.
That's a hell of an upgrade, though. I would say that is a hell of an upgrade.
It's an upgrade to get Devontae Adams there for sure.
It is. I mean, on paper, that's the best offense in that division, right? On paper,
I'm best wide receiver core. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I know they got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle on that one. So Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, wide receiver core at least, is not bad.
That's true. Yeah, that better offense on paper though. Just now with Aaron Rodgers and all the weapons, I guess, because I don't know what the hell's going on with Tua. But you're right, Miami's still a better wide receiving core.
This doesn't help his cause of last week coming out and saying, "I resent this. You guys think I have more power than I do." Yeah. He's Aaron. By the way, Aaron, if you want people to believe you, just a word of advice. You know who we believe less than anyone else in society today? It's politicians.
Yes.
So do not speak like a politician. Or all of us will go, well, you're lying then, clearly, because nobody tells the truth like this.
Oh man, it's there. And you know what? Like I said, it's just a continuation because I do believe Robert Saleh wanted this too. Robert Saleh said basically decided I want to be the defensive head coach of this team.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you and Nathaniel Hackett the keys to the offense, and y'all take care of it. Tell the GM what you need, and they'll try to bring in what you need and what you want.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna handle this defense. And I think he thought his job was safe because he thought, man, look at my defense. Look how good my defense is. And then those chickens came home to roost at one point. Probably him and Aaron Rodgers, they probably had some disagreements of some kind. And then Nathaniel Hackett, the word on the street was that he wanted to demote Nathaniel Hackett. And that's when Aaron Price stepped in and was like, whoa, Mike. You're going to demote my guy. We need to talk about what's going on with you. And so I think this is just continuation of that philosophy that, no, the offense belongs to Aaron. It's Aaron Rodgers' offense. He runs it, and we get his guys, the pieces. He's gonna cook the meal, so we gotta let him pick the groceries too. And that's what they're doing, and they're doubling down on it. So I'm not. I don't know if it's an unwise decision. I don't know what other choice they have. What are they going to do? Bring in another OC and revamp everything? Right now, you're already in. You're already invested.
I mean, if I'm Devon, I'm good leaving after this year though, because Aaron Rodgers is done after this year, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's why they're going all in. They're like, just bring him in. Let's go.
Let's go for it. Then
let's go for it.
That is,
Devontae
Adams to the Jets. We'll see how that works out, but
But I'm interested to watch it though. I mean, you will admit like now there's more appeal to watch how this all goes.
Well, the good news is they're on primetime next week.
I don't know how that worked out too. They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in prime time.
Oh.
Yeah, you got the 49ers and the Chiefs playing.
Yeah.
You got what's the other one? There's Minnesota and Detroit playing.
That's a good one.
Green Bay and Houston.
Green Bay and Houston's
a damn good game.
Good games.
I don't know how I don't know how flex scheduling this early, but even when they made the schedule, you thought Pittsburgh and you thought that was going to be even because Pittsburgh has been struggling for a while to find that quarterback. Why would you put them in prime time in any situation, really?
Well, maybe they thought we're going to do this big thing on Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers about quarterbacks that won a Super Bowl 25 years ago.
Throwback. Throwback. Because you would have thought, I mean, I understand the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, but why would you put Pittsburgh in prime time? You'd more, to me, you'd want to put CJ Stroud and Jordan Love in prime time, or your Super Bowl matchup from what 2 out of the last 5 years you've had a Super Bowl matchup of the Chiefs and the 49ers.
Yeah.
Why not put that in prime time? I don't get
that. I say that, but I said, as someone who wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm not upset that I don't have to stay up till 11 o'clock midnight to watching that game.
No, you're right about that. Yeah. All right. I know we haven't hit the horn headlines because, man, we just had a lot of breaking stories hitting us. So let's hit the horn headlines first, and we'll come back and dissect some of these breaking stories that have taken place over the last 15 minutes or so. But first, let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the horn headlines.
All right, your horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB playoffs, the Mets tied the NLCS against the Dodgers with a 7-3 win yesterday. The Mets put up 5 runs in the second inning, including a grand slam from Mark Vientos to take a commanding lead. In the ALCS, the Yankees took Game 1 5-2 over the Guardians, with the Yankees scoring 2 runs off of wild pitches in the third inning. Game 2 is tonight with Tanner Bibby pitching for Cleveland against Garrett Cole. And in the NFL, the Bills improved to 4-2 in the season with a 23-20 win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. The game was marred by penalties and poor kicking, with both teams committing 11 penalties and missing 2 kicks in the game. A 52-yard Hail Mary to Alan Lazard to end the first half put the Jets back in the game. However, neither team could find the end zone in the second half. And that is your horn headlines.
Okay. I found the Jerry Jones sound, and I found where the rant is. I'm going to send it to Patrick
Nice.
and see if we can try to get you guys right. I believe I found exactly where it starts. I haven't I haven't saw it ended, but I got you the starting point for it.
Try to find it there.
We'll see if we can do that, because some people are saying this is an epic. I will say that we did point out at the beginning of the show, we said Jerry Jones, he's getting very defensive. Have you noticed? We played the audio earlier, him asking someone asked him about Mike McCarthy and basically would he consider an in-season firing, and he kind of went off. Was like, "Am I an idiot? Am I an idiot?"
Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I'm an idiot? Yeah.
Can we play that audio too? Because he's like, "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Or something. And I'm sure that he was basically trying to say, like, no, I'm not going to make a rash decision like that during the bye week.
What he's trying to say is, I get you're trying to get something that's going to be clickbait, and you're going to put me online. And Jerry says, if this happens, he's firing a coach, and what will happen, how Mike McCarthy is going to be fired, or Mike McCarthy on the hot seat, or whatever headline they'd put out there. He understands that that's what the question is leading to. There was a question in the Sark presser yesterday where someone tried to lead him into saying something.
The Billy Bowman quote. They asked about the Billy Bowman quote.
About Billy Bowman,
the Longhorns didn't earn this win.
And that the Michigan had said something similar after their game. And he goes, not my problem. On to the next.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not even addressing it. I'm not even going to give it life. Nope. I'm not even worried about that. Yeah, and that maybe that's what Jerry Jones should do. But my thing was, Jerry Jones usually, this is why they asked that question, because usually Jerry Jones leans into the dramatic and the salacious, and he wants to leave it open so they talk about it on all the talk shows for a couple of days. Like, well, you heard what Jerry Jones said. He didn't say this about Mike McCarthy. You're the one who hasn't given the guy an extension, so we know he's a dead man walking. We know that. Yeah. Everybody knows that, and he gets upset with people for basically leaning into what he has always, as a owner and as a GM, what he has always championed as, part of what makes him special. He always wants to give the media great quotes, and he wants to have, hold court with the media and have these viral moments. And it's like this guy's just leaning into. He's like, hey, I'm trying to get my viral moment. And then Jerry just goes off on it. Am I an idiot? Mm-hmm. It's because I think Jerry's feeling, I don't know. I think he's feeling insecure and threatened.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think, too, it's like Jerry Jones has created narratives for a long time, and he kind of creates his own narrative in the media. He's able to get the media to roll with what narrative he has created.
Yep.
And it feels like now, whatever narrative he was trying to create for the season, it did not work out the way he wanted.
Yeah.
I think he thought signing CD and Dak would have come off a better way than it did, because the way it came out at the end was, he says at the end of it, I signed those 2 guys. And the general response across all media was, cool, you should have done it 3 months ago. There's not one person who came out and made anything more than yes, you should have already done this. you don't get an award for doing something really late in the game.
Or you don't get it. Yeah, they're not gonna give you props for something you were supposed to do. Anyway.
Yeah,
you're supposed to sign your franchise.
I thought he thought it would create more controversy or create more headlines that way. And so I just think he's tried to create this narrative, and it's kind of gone against him, where every story comes back to Jerry really screwed up this offseason.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
And maybe Clarence Hill got him too. Maybe the whole all-in thing got to him this offseason too.
That was not a good narrative. The all-in thing was not a good narrative. I mean, I'll admit there were not very many favorable narratives about the Cowboys this offseason. They were all pretty negative. And I think Jerry thought, oh, when we start winning games, y'all will forget all about that because we're going to be winning games.
Yeah.
And I'll be right. We like our guys. And that's not happening right now either. And so I think you have him coming to this realization that, we might be a 9-win team.
Yeah. We may not be the 12-win team that I could always just rest my hat.
Yes, I always go, we won 12 games. What y'all talking about? You guys are delusional. We went in 12.
Right
we
there.
know what we're doing.
We're right there.
Exactly.
We're circling around. Yes. We're circling.
Circling the drain. So now you can't, now you can't say that. You're right. Now you can't say, when you're 12 wins, you can say, we're close. We are close. Yeah. What are you talking about? How many teams won 12 games this many years in a row and getting to the, we're close. But when you start regressing, getting blown out in the first round of the playoffs and not winning 12 games, say you're going to win 9, maybe 10 this year, you can't make the claim that you're close. You're not close. Matter of fact, especially if you don't win a division, which ain't going to happen this year potentially, because it looks like the Commanders may be the team that wins that division. If they do, you're not close.
And that's your XDC that's winning that division.
Oh, that's also a part of it. That's a part of it. You just nailed it, Pat. That's part of it too.
Yeah.
His guy. That's his guy. And they're over there having way more success early on than the Cowboys are. That's getting to him a little bit. That's part of it.
Yep.
And by the way, you know what's going to put him over the top? When them Texans put a whipping on them.
Ooh.
When them Texans put a whipping on them Cowboys. You know, one of the times where Jerry Jones cried as owner of the Cowboys was when he lost to the Texans in their inaugural season. He might cry again. And if he cries again, he going to fire Mike McCarthy. Tears streaming down his face. That might be the straw. If they get embarrassed, that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. All right, we'll get the Jerry Jones audio because now I see it on Twitter. It's out there. All right, I got it out there. I got it to my man Patrick. It's out there. It's everywhere. So we'll play that for you when we come back. We'll get into that. I'll also have Rod's rant. We'll do Rod's rant as well. We'll talk about Devontae Adams. So we're just gonna change up the show. We were going to get to some other topics, but these are more pressing matters. So we'll talk about Devontae Adams. We'll hear from Jerry Jones, and I'll give you my take on the weaknesses, or at least one weakness I found that Texas can exploit versus Georgia. Every day I'm going to give you something new that I think Texas can do to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, and I got a doozy for you coming up in Rod's Rant. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Baby's coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about my friend, Dr. Eckert, because he can be your friend too, or he can be your dentist, or both. He is for me. I owe him and his team a huge debt of gratitude. I actually went there initially just for a routine cleaning and a checkup, and their checkups are so thorough, in fact, that Dr. Eckert and his team found that my wisdom teeth were actually growing in sideways. It never happens to people over 40. Your wisdom teeth usually don't start growing after 40, so I actually won the lottery, but the bad kind of lottery. So I was on the verge of a disastrous situation impacting my molars. I mean, it could have been really bad, but it wasn't because I was in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his team, and I went there just in the nick of time. They got everything scheduled, made sure I was informed, and made sure I was knowledgeable and educated about the process, made sure, more importantly, I was comfortable with the process, had the procedure done. I was back at work within a couple of days, and thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better, thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, and they can do the same for you. Now, hopefully for you, it's not as serious as having all your wisdom teeth extracted, but if it is, you're in really good hands. But hopefully it's something simple for you, like general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, because he's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry, he can give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. You'll spend no time without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile, and you're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So we're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, just call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day. Sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. U. So give him a call, 512-345-3166. He understands that a confident smile can truly change your life, and he wants to change your life for the better. So what are you waiting for? 512-345-3166. And you know we're approaching the end of the year, and you know you got those benefits until the end of the year, so you want to use them before you lose them. And Dr. Eckert and his team, they can help you out with that as well. DrEckert.com, DrUeckert.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. All right, first, I'm going to do my Texas-Georgia rant, all right, about something I found that Texas can take advantage of in that matchup, and then we'll hit the Jerry Jones sound. I'll give us plenty of time to hit the Jerry Jones sound, to hear it, and to react to it. All right, so let me hit this really quickly. So, in the game versus Oklahoma, the passing game was off because Quinn was off. There's no doubt about that. Not his best performance, but there was one element of the passing game that was pristine. It was fantastic. All right. And you guys know it's one of my favorite concepts to discuss. empty formation. On that gunner helm drive, actually, the first drive where Sark started tinkering and troubleshooting and figuring things out, there had 2 plays that were empty formation. Just on that drive, you had that gunner helm 21-yarder, and you had that Isaiah Bond play to start that drive. That was empty formation. I started looking, I said, oh man, empty formation may work really well against Oklahoma. And the reason it worked is because Brent Venables, who's a brilliant, innovative, basically designer of pressure packages and coverage, different coverage designs and different personnel groupings. He does a really good job with pre-snap disguise. He does an amazing job with it. And I saw him dropping guys from the second level all the way to the deep half. I saw him taking guys from, the deep third and bringing them back, down to linebacker level. I mean, he's doing funky stuff. Your pre-snap is never going to match your post-snap. It's more like misinformation than it actually gives you information. But when you go empty, you force teams to declare themselves. They have to get to their alignment assignment. You have to abandon all disguise. There's no coach that's going to recommend you disguise a coverage or a front or a pressure package when you're going against an empty formation. We just heard Kirby Smart, when Kirby Smart was selling, or at least trying to explain how he ended up, accidentally running into a player and shoving a player, that he didn't even see the player, that he was yelling at his defensive coach on the field because they were in a wrong personnel grouping against empty formation. And the reason that he was so upset about it is because, we'll get to this in a second, empty formation has been it's been a pain in his the last couple of weeks. We'll talk about that. So Texas was perfect, 100% completion percentage out of empty formation versus Oklahoma, because they had to abandon the disguise and there was no confusion for Quinn. He cleared everything up and it brought clarity to his pre-snap read. So Quinn's been really good though in empty formation. So it's not just against Oklahoma. If you go look the last 9 games for Texas, the 6 games this season, or I say all the games that Quinn has played. This is Quinn in empty. So Quinn missed 2 games. So for Quinn, this is Quinn in empty formation. All right. So going back the last 3 games of last year, and then Quinn in empty formation this year, in the 4 starts that he's made. All right. And the limited action that he had in one game. So for Quinn, basically, we got 7 games of sample size here for Quinn. And in that 7-game sample size for Quinn, over 80% completion percentage in empty. Like I said, this goes back to last year, Tech, Oklahoma State, and Washington. And then the 4 games he started this year, over 80% completion percentage, damn near 30% explosive play rate. He's got a first down touchdown rate of over 50%. Over 10 yards per attempt and over 9 yards per play. Did have 2 sacks, but those all came last year. And I think Quinn actually is handling the pressure better out of empty formation now, because the ball comes out naturally quick with him. That's 2.1, 2.2 seconds. That insulates you in pass protection. Hell, Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks have combined. They've allowed 1 pressure the entire season. 1 pressure the entire season. So you ain't getting to Texas around the edge, especially out of empty with the ball coming out quickly. You're going to have to get your pressure up the interior, all right, the guts of that offensive line, which that Quinn can see that and get rid of the football to the outside. So that's why it works really good. It insulates pass protection, forces defenses to declare themselves. And lately, Quinn started to find his groove in empty formation. So how does that apply to Georgia? Real quickly. Georgia against Alabama, and give Alabama some props, Kalen DeBoer. They had going up until that game. So up into the Georgia game, and it's including the Georgia game. Alabama had run 23 empty formation plays the entire season. 14 of them came against Georgia. Alabama had run 23 the entire season up until that Bama game. So what was that? Number 4 games for them. So in 4 games, they had run 23 empty formation plays, and 14 of them came in 1 game versus Georgia. That was their way of breaking tendency. And 68% of their total yards out of empty formation on the season in their first 4 games came against Georgia. They had 5 runs. Now, Jalen Milroe is one of the best runners in college football, so he was able to make some plays, because essentially you have to tackle him in the open field when he decides to tuck the ball and run it. So even if you have a spy on him, sometimes it's really tough to bring that guy down. If you take a spy out of coverage, that means there's 1 less guy in coverage against 5 receivers going out on routes. That can leave your coverage and secondary compromised. So I always say the most stressful formation to defend is empty formation with a dual threat quarterback. It's just almost impossible to defend it if that dual threat quarterback is good enough. And Georgia found that out going up against Jalen Milroe. So Texas won't have that, but I think with Quinn, you still can exploit Georgia in empty formation with the quick precision passing game of Quinn Ewers. They had 9 passes. So he did run it. He ran it 5 times out of empty formation, but out of the 9 passes, 89% success rate, guys. That means you're getting 50% of the yards needed to gain to get a first down on first, at least 50% of the yards needed to get a first down on first down, at least 75% of the yards needed to get a first down on second down, and 100% of the yards needed to get a first down on third and fourth down. That's what success rate is in a nutshell. 89% though versus Georgia out of empty formation for 154 yards. That's pretty damn good. And I think Texas can exploit some of the same things Alabama did in empty formation, and Texas is really good at it. Texas is really good at empty formation. Okay, there you go. That's my take on Texas and what they can exploit versus Georgia. I'll give you something new every day. But let's get to the Jerry Jones audio. Let's dissect it and break it down. Patrick, I'll give it to you because you're the one who's been dissecting it and chopping it up. I don't even know what's on it. I've just been seeing it on my timeline.
Yeah, so basically, it seems like when we come into this, they're asking him basically going over what they did in the offseason and offseason moves. And the question is, were the criticisms in the offseason of your offseason moves, are they becoming an issue now? Were those criticisms founded? And Jerry did not like the question. And it's about 2.5 minutes. Of Jerry explaining why he will not answer it and it shouldn't have been asked.
Remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Or are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point? What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
Get
a job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is by the Cowboys. It was an idiot that did that. So idiot things can turn into good decisions. Okay? Smart things can turn into bad decisions. The facts are that when you make one, you don't really know whether it's going to be good or not at the time. So let's just go ahead. I'm trying to answer your questions, man. You want some conversation this morning? You're getting it.
Jerry Jones here on the Fan. Jerry, you worried about fan?
Wow. Okay. So Yeah, I think the pressure is starting to get to Jerry a little bit.
So this is the question: Is this real? Is this real, or is this Jerry Jones just saying, man, there's a lot of pressure on right now, and they're looking, so why don't I make a big spectacle, but I make a big point in it about all the good things I've done. And so people have to start, and then the conversation will be, well, what were the good things Jerry did? And then we'll talk about the good things. And then everyone's going to, I don't know, but he doesn't realize is we've talked about it. You drafted well. Drafted well, Jerry. You draft well most of the time. Pretty much everything else was an L. I mean, and some of the things you can say you hired Mike Zimmer. That's been 50-50, we'll say.
Yeah, I don't know how great that's been. Yeah, I like to hire, but I don't know how great it's been.
I
agree with that.
I'll give you credit. You drafted well. Your team drafted well.
That could be it, that he is trying to distract us from looking at how bad the actual product is. But man, he's doing it in a horrible way.
Oh, it is. It is.
He's not. Yes, it's to me, it's a bad distraction because he still brings us back to him and his lack of accountability.
Yeah.
He just sounds like somebody who doesn't want to take accountability for how bad the Cowboys are right now. And that's why he's like, hey, no, look at the good stuff I've done. I think he's like, I know it's bad, but I've also done some good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we acknowledge that. But now it's bad.
I think it's
and
also
the thing is, we saw it coming too. That's what Jerry doesn't want to recognize, is that all the fans, they all saw it coming. That's why they were so critical. And obviously, they're like, dude, you got to do more than you're doing, or your team's going to regress. And I think maybe the pressure is, or at least for him, the blowback is that it actually is coming to fruition.
I think that's part of it. I'll also throw in, I think this is this kind of discourse, and this is everything. This happens in election years. It gets so toxic everywhere, of us versus them on either side, and everybody hates everybody. And if we don't think the same way, he hangs out with a lot of very rich people with a lot of power, and I'm sure they are going through this as well. And they're asking him for money. And they're saying, man, if you don't do this, the world will burn to the ground if you don't send me some money. So I'm sure there's a piece of this sound very much of me versus the world, and you guys are against me. And I'll talk to the fans, my fans and my people, but you guys are against me, because that's just how this climate gets this time of year, or this time every 4 years when we get to election season. And it's awful. And it happens between people at the bottom and people at the top. That I've got friends that we've had uncomfortable conversations, and I've had people that I don't know that well who've tried to have uncomfortable conversations with me, and you just go, man, why are we talking like we haven't talked like this in 4 years? And then we did this.
Yeah,
so I think
for
that
Jerry,
added with stress, added with everything else, it just doesn't end well.
It doesn't, but it's got nothing to do with your team regressing.
No, I agree.
None of that has anything to do with your team regressing. Your team is regressing. That's what we're watching.
Yeah,
everybody's watching your team. They're not better than they were last year. And this was the entire narrative of the offseason, was that, Jerry, your team isn't better. You're not getting better.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting better, then you're regressing. And we're literally watching the team regress. So maybe they'll figure it out, and maybe they'll round in the form later in the season. Right now, I don't see it.
Oh, no.
I don't see it.
No, I think
maybe somebody else. I don't see it.
Hey, look, we just saw a trade go down. Jerry, make a trade. He's got a meeting. He's got some meeting that he's going to, that he can go figure out that trade and figure out what you got to do to make this team better. I mean, I'm with you on all the stuff we talk about, that he consistently said they had no money to make any moves. They couldn't do anything. They waited till the very end, paid CD and Dak more than they had to because they waited on it. They could have paid them both at the beginning of the offseason, got it done, and moved on. There's plenty of things we could criticize, but we've done that over and over and over again. I think at this point, it's crazy to see him unravel like this, to ask a reporter if they think he's dumb, to say he'll go. And I don't think he was saying he was going to fire them. I think he says, I'm not going to do an interview with you anymore.
Yes, I think that's what he was threatening. Like, basically, I don't work with you guys anymore.
Yeah.
But like I said, the thing is, if the Cowboys don't do something during this bye week, to me, it tells their fans and everybody else that they're satisfied with where they are. And if you can look at that product and be satisfied with where you are, then you got problems.
No,
I got some serious issues.
But this is what I'll give Jerry credit for. I'll give him this credit, which is not a lot. But we assumed Jerry would sign CD and Dak before the season started, and he just got it in under the wire. So I would assume Jerry is going to make a move this week. I don't know if he's going to make a big enough move. I don't know if he's going to make enough moves, but I would assume he would do something this week.
You got to do something.
I would assume it. Would you assume that?
Yes, you got to do something.
I will give him credit that I assume something will happen this week, and we'll be talking about it, and we'll be talking about, was it enough? Was it a good move or not? But I assume something will happen just because. How do you not?
If he's inactive, it's a white flag.
Yes.
And he's basically telling you, or he'll be gaslighting you, telling you that we like our guys. But either way, they got to make a move because they got some glaring holes. And I think, for the Cowboys, if you want to give your fans hope, you'll do it by making a move. If not, then you'll be saying F the fans. All right, we come back. We'll get into who said that. Then we'll also wrap this baby up and put it in the oven right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my co-host Patrick Davis comes, plays jams to reach the top of the Billboard Shorts on this day in history. So I appreciate him coming up with all of our musically themed days of the week, but especially a top of the charts Tuesday. He also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted there for you at the Horn ATX. It's a pretty simple one. Who do you think is the receiver most likely to lead Texas in receiving yards next, who has not already done it? And that would be your choices. Matthew Golden, Jonte Cook is in one of your choices as well. Jaden Blue and Silas Bowden. Right now, Matthew Golden is your leader for the receiver, which has not led Texas in receiving yards, most likely to be the next one to do so. Okay, we'll get to, like I said, some more Texas Georgia conversation tomorrow, and we'll hit that Cowboy story a little bit more. We did play the Jerry Jones audio, which now has gone viral with Jerry Jones going off on the guys at 105 through the fan. But now it is time to play some audio for Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
I feel like I complicate things a lot of times. Try to put a lot of hot sauce on routes, and sometimes all you need is salt. So just from there, just keep growing as a player. It's a lot of things that I didn't know my freshman year when I was in college that I grew to learn. So, time will definitely tell how this going to go.
Oh man, it's a very mature AD Mitchell, who we've been playing a lot of sound from his offensive coordinator, from his wide receiver coach, talking about how AD Mitchell, he's going to have that breakthrough game. He's been one of the leaders in ASS in the NFL, not just for rookies, for all receivers, average separation score. And yet him and Anthony Richardson and him and Joe Flacco, they just can't get on the same page.
Yeah, he's
open.
He's making that new stat not look great. And it's
yeah, you're right.
He's one of those,
he's open though.
He's open, but it's are you open where you need to be open? Are you open because you're going the wrong way? And
that's true.
So but he's working on it. So if he can get working on it, I think he'll get there because he's clearly got the moves and the ability to get open. And the question is getting to the right place when you're open. That the quarterback, you don't want Aaron Rodgers to get mad at you for cutting inward instead of going on the red line.
You might get shipped off to the Jets, man. I mean, who knows? All right, good stuff there, Patrick, as always. All right, remember the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys and mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. And until next time, hook 'em and peace.